Real, unfiltered sports talk manufactured locally for the Carolinas.
Lockdown!
This is the Rob Brown Show.
Yeah.
Only on ESPN.
ESPN Upstate.
Let's get it, ladies and gentlemen. Thursday of the Rob Brown Show is on is ESPN. Hello to you. And how do you do, Upstate, South Carolina? It is tremendous to be back with you again. I am the aforementioned Rob Brown, back in the palatial ESPN Upstate studios. The great one, Colonel Grudge, hashtag Dad Kicks, the content cash cow. Lonzo is in charge of the broadcast. What up, Zoe?
You know what I enjoy doing? I enjoy making clean hand gestures on the stream, because for some reason it lags just at that moment when I'm doing it, and it's really cool because it looks like I'm in a Bruce Lee movie. It's pretty sweet. So you should check it out so you can see my kung fu moves on the stream.
Yes, Lonzo, kung fu master. I mean, come on, the dude's just on a different level. He's a black belt in fake kung fu moves.
I will have you know that I am a black belt in sarcasm. Try me.
Yeah, I know. I've met you. That's Zoe. I'm Rob. We are set for 3 hours of sports talk greatness, starting right this very second. So much to get to, so much to talk about. Coming up at 1 o'clock this afternoon, we'll be joined by David Rhodes. Rashad Beard out of the country for the week. So David Rhodes, his co-host and partner in crime on the
wait.
podcast.
He's not in Canada, is he?
I don't know what's your issue with Canada, Zoe.
I mean, come on. Who wants to go there?
People who don't want to have to pay tens of thousands of dollars because they broke their arm. Can of worms you weren't ready for. Were you, Zoe?
I believe you're wrong about that, but that's fine. Yeah, you're definitely wrong about that. Let's talk sports.
That's probably the best course of action right now. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Rob Brown Show on WORD, where we get into no, I'm just kidding. We're absolutely not doing that. We're talking football, basketball, baseball, soccer, hockey, the basics. David Rhodes joins us at 1 o'clock this afternoon at 2:20. As he does every Thursday. Lonzo guides us through Fight Club, your home for all things combat sports, including fake kung fu on the show. So make sure you stick around for that. Between now and then, Carolina Hurricanes get set for game number 3 on the road at Tampa tonight. Things do indeed look bleak for the Canes, but I think maybe, just maybe, I have found a spark of hope for the Caniacs. We're going to get to that coming up in a minute. Team US Soccer has a major matchup this evening, a matchup that will go a long way towards proving that this young roster full of European champions, scratch that, full of American champions who have won championships in Europe, are ready to elevate that program to the next level. Will they do so successfully? We'll break tonight's match down and what's on the line Sunday if they're able to get a dub. In the NBA, 3 series of the first round concluded yesterday, but the storyline is that the next generation of stars is stepping up. We're going to talk about Ice Trae Young, Luka Doncic going bananas last night as the Mavericks pushed the Clippers onto the brink of elimination. That series, by the way, 5 games deep in that series, and through 5 games, the home team has lost every game. The road team has won every game. If it holds that way, we will take this bad boy all the way to game 7. Can the streak be broken by the Mavs when they go back home? We're going to talk about that coming up in a little while. Tomorrow, baseball regional tournaments are set to begin. South Carolina will have a tournament that they host, although they are not the number 1 seed. Old Dominion did not put in a bid as a 1 seed. So South Carolina, a 2 seed, gets lucky and draws the hosting duties. Can the Gamecocks get out of the regional into a super regional and take a step towards the College World Series? We're going to break that down later on in the show as well. Plus, in boxing, something that ESPN said on their website that absolutely infuriated me. 844-477-3776, 844-GSP, ESPN is the number. Ingles Market text line is open for you as well at 71307. Start your text with ESPN so we can read them on the air. The Ingles Market text line at 71307. All of those avenues of communication available to you. That being said, Zoe, let's follow your own advice. Let's talk sports.
Let's do lunch.
This is a very nutritious lunch. All the food groups are represented.
You guys are here. It's a scuttlebutt.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here? Lunch! Lunch!
It is the lunch breakdown. There are 3 things that you have to know before you go start talking sports with your friends, family, coworkers, or the dog, whoever you spend your lunch break with. This will be the scuttlebutt. Around the lunch table, we start with item number 1. What's better than football? More football. And now there are not just 1, but 2 spring leagues that will be taking place. We learned a handful of months ago that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson had purchased the crispy remains of the XFL along with his investment group and will try to throw his star power behind that organization to make it more viable. The XFL actually had a pretty good run going up until the coronavirus canceled sports, and they just didn't have the resources to get through it. They do. But now they are not alone. Fox has announced that the ill-fated 1980s football league known as the USFL will be reborn in 2022. Now, we don't have a ton of information, but what we do know from the release from Fox is that the network will broadcast the league's games and that it owns a minority stake in the company that will own and operate the USFL. They went on to say that the league, as of right now, has 8 teams in it, but that is not the maximum. They may very well grow that league moving forward. USFL co-founder and current Spring League CEO Brian Woods said in a statement, quote, "I'm extremely passionate about football, and the opportunity to work with Fox Sports and bring back the USFL in 2022 was an endeavor worth pursuing. We look forward to providing players a new opportunity to compete in a professional football league and giving fans everywhere the best football viewing product possible during what is typically a period devoid of professional football." The league, which was founded all the way back in 1982, made it 4 years and has become a cult favorite for Gen X football fans who remember both the league and the stars that were briefly attracted to it. The USL did have players like Jim Kelly, Steve Young, Herschel Walker during its brief existence as owners of USFL teams tried to outbid the NFL teams for star college players' services. And then the league decided back in 1984 to move the league from the spring to the fall in an attempt to force a merger with the NFL. That obviously would end up going by the wayside. That league would be forced to fold. The move failed disastrously after the USL filed an antitrust lawsuit against the NFL as part of the endeavor. And while the USFL did win the suit, the league got a whopping $3 when it was ruled the NFL had indeed violated antitrust laws. Without a major payday from the NFL, the USFL was forced to fold. But since we have seen a reemergence of spring football including the XFL and the AAF, both of which quickly folded, but at least in some part due to the coronavirus, the USFL will be leaning on the nostalgia of Gen X to try to float it. The 8 teams will be, some of the 8 teams will be the original teams from the OG USFL. So if you are a fan of nostalgia, if you remember the USFL fondly, this league will look similar to what it did back in the early 80s. So this will be interesting. I don't know, Zoe, if the United States will jump into the back pocket of a league with inferior talent to the NFL, but the mistake has been made in the past. You cannot put another football league up in the fall against the NFL. Spring football, however, has a possibility. It has a chance. There is a look from fans to get more football in. Will it work? We're going to find out. But Zoe, I don't know. Did you do you remember the USFL? Did you ever put eyeballs on that product back in the early 80s?
I did. I was a teenager, and I do remember it, and I remember it fondly. I was just getting into football right around that time. I played, but I never really watched. Wasn't allowed to watch at home, so I was, taking in all the football that I could take in. And this is interesting because, as you pointed out, the XFL was starting to look pretty good before the pandemic hit. So, and starting to get some eyeballs on it. Will people watch in the spring? You're right. There's no sense even trying to compete with the NFL in the fall. If it's quality football and you click on it and you're looking for sports, it's still football. You're probably going to watch it. Bringing back the old teams and bringing back this league is going to prey on nostalgia, is going to prey on people who really was into that, and they're going to give it a chance, and maybe they get their kids and their friends and all that to watch. I'm going to be interested to see if they expand and if they're able to get some ratings, because that's really what it comes down to. Can they get ratings, and can they get butts and seats?
We are going to keep an eye on that. We'll talk a little bit about more later on in the show, but we got to get to item number 2. The College World Series returns after last year's NCAA baseball tournament was canceled due to COVID-19. We now have not just the regional set, not just the team set, but we have the schedule now set as well. The Fayetteville Regional is home of the number 1 overall seed, the 46-10 Arkansas Razorbacks out of the Southeastern Conference. They will take on NJIT at 3:00 tomorrow. Game 2 between the mid 2 seeds in that bracket, Northeastern versus Nebraska. Down in Ruston, Louisiana Tech, a 40-18 squad ranked number 16, will host Rider at 7:00. Game number 2 takes place earlier in the day between Alabama and NC State. Then in Stanford, number 9 Stanford, 33-14, takes on North Dakota State, 41-17. That one's at 4:00. At 9:00 that evening, Nevada takes on UC Irvine in the Stanford Regional. In Lubbock, Texas, Texas Tech will host. They'll take on Army at noon. North Carolina and UCLA will get at it at 7 p.m. In Tucson, Arizona, number 5 Arizona will take on Grand Canyon. Arizona 40-15, ranked number 5 in the country. UC Santa Barbara and Oklahoma State are your mid-seeds in that one. Their game will be at 4:00. Game 1 at 10 p.m. out in Tucson, Arizona. Down in Oxford, the Runnin' Rebels of Ole Miss, 41-19, take on SC Missouri State at 8:00. Earlier in the day at 3:00. Florida State, 30-22, takes on Southern Miss at 3:00. In Greenville, not ours, but a different one. This will be Greenville, North Carolina. ECU takes on Norfolk State. Maryland takes on Charlotte. Those games at noon and 6, respectively. In Nashville, number 4 Vanderbilt takes on Presbyterian. Vanderbilt 40-15 on the year. Indiana State and Georgia Tech will get it on at 1:00. That Vandy game at 7 p.m. In Austin, Texas, the number 2 Longhorns at 42-15 will do battle with Southern at 2:00. Fairfield takes on Arizona State later that evening at 7. In Gainesville, Florida, the Gators will host South Florida in a Sunshine State showdown. South Alabama will take on Miami in a 3 Florida team bracket at 5 o'clock. Florida plays at noon. South Bend, Indiana, the home of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, as they host Central Michigan in game 1. Michigan and UConn will get it on in game number 2. In Stark Vegas, Mississippi, number 7, Mississippi State and Samford right there down the road in Alabama. Campbell takes on VCU on the other half of that bracket. In Fort Worth, Texas, TCU takes on McNeese State. Dallas Baptist and Oregon State will be there as well. Right down the road in Columbia, number 11, Old Dominion is the 1 seed, but because they didn't bid, South Carolina will host. Old Dominion takes on Jacksonville at 7 o'clock. Virginia at 29 and 23 take on the Gamecocks at noon tomorrow. We will have updates on that game for you as it plays out throughout our show tomorrow. In Eugene, number 14, Oregon takes on Central Connecticut State. LSU, maybe the furthest distance that has to be traveled by any team in a regional. The Tigers take on Gonzaga. Down in Knoxville, Tennessee, number 3, Tennessee versus Wright State. Liberty travels to take on Duke at noon. That's your regional schedule for day number 1, game number 1 and 2 in all the regionals tomorrow. The super regionals will take place between Friday, June 11th to Monday, June 14th, and then June 19th. We'll see the beginning of the College World Series. And finally, item number 3, and we are going to bring this back in the next segment. Yesterday, in a huge day in the NBA, we saw 3 series come to their end, all of them at 4-1, and they all had something very interesting in common. All of them had a superstar step up from the next generation of stars. We are going to break those games down for you and take a look at where we stand in the bracket right now when we come back. My name is Rob Brown. Lonzo is back in the studio at the helm. Let's take a break. You're back right after this on ESPN Upstate.
QC Connects.
The Rob Brown Show. Listen on your Amazon or Google smart speaker. Just say, play ESPN Upstate.
Our friends at QC Kinetics want you to be able to, live your life and do it pain-free without having to go through that chronic pain that can impact every aspect of your life. I talked to someone a number of months ago that said that they were having a problem taking a shower. They said it's the worst part of their day, which, if you're like me, taking a hot shower is the best part of the day. They said it wasn't. And I said, why? And they said because their right shoulder was in so much pain from their day-to-day life that when it came time to wash their hair, to get their hand up over their head to wash their hair was excruciating. And I told them they needed to get in touch with QC Kinetics because there are stories like that all around us. You may be dealing with a similar situation. Then you need to call QC Kinetics as well. You call QC Kinetics in Greenville or in Asheville, and they will walk you through how their non-surgical regenerative therapies can help you feel better, faster, naturally, without surgery, without drugs. You go in, you get the therapy, you leave. It's that simple. Dr. Richard Schaefer, MD, will walk you through the entire process. Give them a call right now at 864-448-3772. Mention the Rob Brown Show and get that consultation for free at 864-448-3772 or visit them online at qckinetics.com, qckinetics.com. It's our friends at QC Kinetics right here in the Upstate.
AutomotiveMap.com presents your ESPN Upstate Sports Center update powered by The Score. South Carolina basketball junior forward Keyshawn Bryant and redshirt sophomore guard
man Brandon coming in. Ice Tray was ice cold last night for the Hawks. Dude, that dagger he put in with that 3 and then took a bow in front of the Knicks crowd before he sent them home disappointed. Unbelievable moment. Trae Young is a stone cold killer. Lonzo was kung fu fighting. Those boys were fast as lightning. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Dude, that was so good. So yeah, in fact, I've got the audio of the Knicks fans being outraged. The Knicks
Creekproperties.com.
I'll tell you.
Real unfiltered sports talk brewed locally.
Oh my God, a hipster! Bring him a microbrew, quick!
This is the Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate.
The Rob Brown Show right back here on ESPN Upstate. I am Rob. He is Lonzo. And I believe that Lonzo is about to have a new favorite NBA player. I think he's about to have a new favorite NBA player. And here is why. Last night, Trae Young, he has taken the moniker Ice Trae because my dude is ice cold. The dude is a star in the making. We knew that already, and he put it on display last night. Lonzo, there was an absolute moment that took place last night. So the New York Knicks finally made it back to the playoffs. 41-31, 25-11 at home on the year. They made it back to the NBA playoffs. And the Knicks fans were out in force. Spike Lee was back in the building. 50 Cent was back in the building. The Knicks fans were all about it. They were ready for history to be made. And then Trae Young was like, yo, hold up. Wait a minute. I got something for you. 48 seconds left. And the Atlanta Hawks had put this game away. They led the series 3-1. If they finished off the Knicks, it was ball game. They move on to round number 2. Well, they did. The Atlanta Hawks are up a dozen with less than 50 seconds to play. The Hawks have the basketball. And inside of the final minute, the Knicks fans around Madison Square Garden rose to their feet to give a standing ovation to the New York Knicks squad that had finally given them something to be happy about in the basketball world. Well, Trae Young decided, since the Knicks fans had been harassing him, had been yelling at him, had been trying to get in his head, and by the way, it hadn't worked because my man had himself an absolute series. Trae Young, dribbling the basketball around half court, decided to pull up for a 3. Now, I'm going to play the audio from that game last night. I'm going to play the audio from that game last night. And I want you to listen to the change in tone when Trae Young knocked down a shot, turned around to the Knicks fans who were booing him, and took a bow at center court.
Of the next season. As Young fires from way downtown and takes a bow. Not appreciated. It should be added.
That was Marv. And you could hear the Knicks fans in the background. Zoe, he knocked down a 30-foot near center court 3-point shot, good as gold, clean as it comes. And when he knocked down the shot, by the way, there was no timeout. There was no break in the action. The Knicks inbounded the ball, and they moved on. The game is going on. The clock is tick-tocking away. And Trae Young takes just a moment, Lonzo, to stand at center court on the Knicks logo and give a Broadway-style bow to the audience in recognition of sticking a dagger into their heart. If you are a Conor McGregor fan, Lonzo, then Ice Trae Young is your dude. He is ruthless.
I hope that he made eye contact with Spike Lee while he was bowing, just because that would make it even funnier.
Even better.
Yes.
Even better. When Spike and Mike Jordan had their famous stare down a number of years ago,
yeah,
and Mike turned and eventually gave him the oh no, it was in the finger. It was the shrug, right? Knocks down another three, and he looks at Spike and he shrugs. It's an all-time moment. And Ice Trae last night. By the way, Spike Lee left the game early. He
did he? Did he? So he wasn't there for the eye contact.
He wasn't sticking around to watch Trae Young take a bow as if he had just finished up a 3-night stint on Broadway.
So Spike Lee pulled a LeBron.
Yeah, I guess he did. I mean, he's not on the team, so it's not quite as bad.
Well, he might as well be on the team.
True. You're not wrong. Dude.
That's awesome. I love the roar of the crowd for a couple reasons. One, the fact that there's a crowd there to actually roar is awesome. And the other thing is that as someone who got into NBA watching the Bulls, I hated the Knicks. So anytime someone can put a dagger in the Knicks, I enjoy. And Knicks fans out there actually thought that they were going to do something this year. That's funny.
The Knicks are the worst one for. Listen, I don't know. I don't know who needs to hear this. The Knicks franchise is not saved. James Dolan's still your owner. Julius Randle, who, by the way, I got to give the Hawks credit because Julius Randle was like a 24, 25 point a night dude. And he averaged like 14 in this series, all right? He averaged like 14 in this series. So the Hawks locked that dude down. Locked him down. Julius Randle never got anything going in this series. He never got anything going in this series. So they make a run at Julius Randle. They shut the dude down. The Hawks win. And as they end up in a spot, to close out the series, Trae Young decides to stand at New York's basketball capital and bow to the world after knocking. By the way, Zoe, they were up a dozen with 47 seconds left to play. And it's not just the bow. It's not just the bow. It's the fact, Zoe, that he had the rocks to take a 30-foot 3-point shot just to run up the score on New York. So there are people in this world, and it only takes one time to learn that they are one of these people. There are people in this world, and I believe Lonzo is one of them, that you do not look them in the face and tell them, I am better than you and I am going to beat you, because they are going to do everything in their power and some things that are out of their power to finish you off. And when they do, Lonzo, they are going to take a bow in your face to make sure you know what just happened to you. And Trae Young is that dude.
I agree. The best victories are the ones that may be hard fought, but you can look in the eyes of the person you've just defeated, take a bow and smile and walk away knowing that you won and they lost.
It's fact. It is a fact. You can't, dude, Trae Young went into that series and the Hawks were getting told the Knicks are back. This program is back. Julius Randle has elevated them to a new level. The Knicks are back in the game. Trae Young, you can't do it. And what does Trae Young do? Just take a bow like he just won a Tony. It was that good. Let's take a break. We'll come back here in just a minute. We'll talk about the other two games in that series. Atlanta, by the way, ended up winning that game and eliminating the Knicks 103-89 in a game that wasn't particularly that close. 76ers and the Wiz and the Jazz and the Grizz are done as well. Superstars taking over in both of those games. We'll talk more about that later on the show. Rob, Lonzo, you, this is ESPN Upstate.
The Rob Brown Show. Listen on your...
No comment, Steven.
Yeah, I saw that. How did you silence me? Did I miss something?
That wasn't what the no comment was about.
Oh.
I stuck my hand up like this, and it just messing around doing the kung fu thing. It just happened to be right at the moment. You just went silent because we were coming back. So.
My helper just looked at me and said, "Who is Trae Young? I never heard of him. He must be new." Well, if you don't know, now you know, playa. Trae Young is a dude, man. So you might know what the weather's supposed to be like tonight. I kind of want to go to the drive game if it's going to be nice.
Well, just doing the eye test, it looks cloudy. I thought it was supposed to rain, but I'm not positive.
I don't care if it's cloudy, but it's baseball night in America. It's dollar beer night at the game. I don't see why the universe would decide to take that away from me.
You had your weekend last week.
Yeah, and now I get to have my Thursday. I don't put a limit, Lonzo, on the amount of fun that I'm allowed to have.
Got to pace yourself when it comes to fun because, you don't want to burn out. 30 seconds.
No such thing.
Real, unfiltered sports talk every weekday noon to 3. This is the Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate.
The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. This is ESPN Upstate. I am Rob Brown. Lonzo Back in the network studio. Two other games going down last night. The 76ers finished off the Washington Wizards last night, 129-112, your final in that one. This series, with the exception of one game, was all Philly, and we expected it to be. We expected it to be. The 76ers were supposed to be the better team, but how about the young man named Tobias Harris? 9 of 17 from the floor, 2 of 5 from the arc, 8 of 10 from the stripe, 28 points, and his team plus 11 in the plus-minus category when he was on the court. And, of course, you pair him with Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons only had 19 points in the game. But I got to tell you, to me, one of my favorite statistics is that plus-minus statistic. I love the plus-minus statistic mainly because you can go out and you can have a 30-point game and still, it doesn't happen often, but still end up having a negative in the plus-minus when you are on the floor. That is the type of score or the type of stat, that shows me, are you a player or are you a teammate, right? Are you a player or are you a teammate? And I think that stat, it's not perfect, but it gets overlooked sometimes. The plus-minus statistic is a measure of the point differential when players are in and out of a game. It is calculated by taking the difference in the score when the player enters the game and subtracting it from the score when the player exits the game. The differences are added up over the entire game to give the score. Thus, it is a measure of the impact a player has on the score of the game when he is in the game without measuring any specific statistic. Basically, does your team go up or down on the scoreboard in relation to the other when you are on the floor? Does your team add points to the score, to the lead, or does it add to the deficit when you are on the floor? Now, the stat is interesting because it does rely on the other four on the floor with you to do their job as well. But every player gets his own plus minus at the end of the game. And you'll see some interesting ones. Look at the bench. Look at the bench players for the 76ers. Scott sat at a 0. Reed, a -2. A -2 for Tucker. A -1 for Milton. A -2 for Joe off the bench for the 76ers. You need your starters to have a solid plus minus. I look up at the Wiz. Listen to the plus minus for the starting lineup of the Wiz. Hachimura, -15. Russell Westbrook. Now, Westbrook didn't have a bad game. 24 points, but he was only 7 of 20 from the floor, 2 of 5 from downtown, 8 of 10 from the arc. Ended up with 8 total rebounds on the night, 10 assists. But he was -21 when he was on the floor. Those are the type of numbers that get you beat. And one of the things that I am genuinely enjoying about these NBA games is looking at the plus minuses of the young guys on the floor, the Tobias Harris, the Trae Youngs, the Luka Doncic's, etc. Looking at their plus minuses. And one thing I'm seeing is that there are a lot of young players that have solid plus minuses next to their name. Ja Morant had a -19 last night, but for the most part, that hovered now. And you have to, one thing you have to take into consideration when you look at these plus minuses. It's an important stat to me, but you do have to take into consideration the team player said player plays on and the team they're going up against. If your team loses, as the Grizz did, 126-110, pretty much everybody on the floor is going to have a minus. But the question is, what does that minus look like in relation to your statistics as well? Last night, Ja Morant, as the Grizz get knocked off by the Jazz and kicked out of the NBA playoffs, 27 points on 50% from the floor, 11 of 22, 5 of 9 from deep, And here's what I find really interesting about this game. John Morant didn't go to the free throw line one time. Lonzo, 27 points. He didn't go to the stripe one time. Now, the Jazz are an interesting team because they are a pretty good defensive team with Rudy Gobert anchoring. Donovan Mitchell does not get as much credit as he deserves for being a defensive player. Bogdanovich is a bulldog when he is defending somebody out around the arc. They're a good, solid defensive team, are the Utah Jazz. John Morant went to the line 0 times. If he goes to the line, I don't know, let's look at what everybody else did. If he goes to the line an average number of times, John Morant's plus minus is probably back up around -9, right?
So you're saying he scored 27 points and wasn't fouled once?
That's what the ref said.
That sounds a little odd.
Thank you very much. Here is where I'm driving with this discussion about the young players in the league. John Morant, Trae Young, Luka Doncic, etc. Here's where I'm driving. What I'm driving at is this. The NBA, when I go look at the other games of older superstars, guys like LeBron, right? I go look at the scores of guys like LeBron. And what you're seeing out of guys like LeBron, the older guys in the league, is that they are going to the line multiple times. They spend a lot of time on the free throw line. The NBA, here in the Lakers-Suns game, those two teams went to the line a combined 42 times in that game. All right, 42 free throws from that. Last night in the Grizz-Jazz game, right? In the Grizz-Jazz game, the Grizzlies went to the stripe, Lonzo, as a team, 9 shots from the free throw line. 9. The Jazz went to the line as a team. They had 12 free throw shots. 21 combined free throws. Now, I'm not saying that I want the NBA to call more fouls. Not in the least. Not in the least do I want them to call more fouls. I want them to call fouls equally across the board, and I want the young guys to be getting the same respect, right? I hate that discussion in the league of, well, you got to earn those calls. You got to get respect to get, no, a foul's a foul. And one problem I've noticed in the NBA, Zoe, and correct me if I'm wrong here, when I tune in to the NBA on TNT and they're running promos for the other playoff games, they're like the Lakers, LeBron James, the Suns, Chris Paul. Why are you not focusing on Devin Booker? Why are you not giving me Trae Young? Why are you not giving me now? Luka's probably the exception. Luka's been in some commercials, but I don't see Zoe. I don't see the NBA focusing on getting their young players onto the forefront. They keep focusing on the same dudes that are aging out of the league when you've got Trae Young taking a bow to Knicks fans. When you've got Luka Doncic going for 42 last night.
From a marketing standpoint, it makes more sense to filter some of these new guys in with the old ones. So when you're seeing the established stars who are probably on their way out, and in the next shot you're seeing one of the younger guys, and you start associating them with greatness. And then when the other ones are gone, you still have those guys, and you've already put it out there where people are going, okay, LeBron's up there. Now they're putting this guy. Maybe I should check this guy out and see how good he is. It makes more sense to do it that way. I don't know why they're not doing that.
That's exactly what I'm saying, Zoe. Exactly what I'm saying. I don't understand why it would be that you would not be propping these guys up when they are out there doing what they are doing in these playoffs. It's infuriating. 844-477-3776, 844-GSP-ESPN. Text us at 71307. Start your text with ESPN so that we can read them on the air. Let's take a break. We'll come back here in just a moment from right now. Another bit of potentially devastating news from the Olympics. We are 50 days away from the start of the 2020-2021 games, but a big blow to the viability of those games. We'll talk about that next on the Rob Brown Show. This is ESPN Upstate.
The Rob Brown Show. Listen on your computer and tablet at ESPN Upstate.
Yeah, Josh, if that ain't true, I don't know what is, dude. It's just, it's gotten bad. It's gotten bad. Look at Kmart popping into the show. Kevin, what's up, fella? Welcome in, man. Yeah, I'm flipping over the Bravos Nationals games right now. I went to my stream site earlier and it wasn't up yet, so I'm going to not that I'm streaming the game or anything. Kev, how are we the most inconsistent team in Major League Baseball, man? How are we the most inconsistent team in Major League Baseball? I don't get it. I don't get it. I also forgot to put my glasses on before I came out here. Yeah, we got injuries everywhere. And Ozuna being an idiot, losing his mind. Problem with that is, Kmart, I suspect that Marcell Ozuna likely isn't coming back this year. And if that turns out to be the case, then all these young guys we've been building up, somebody's going to have to get traded to find us another bat for the lineup, which I'm not excited about at all. It's like the Braves can go out there and take 2 of 3 from Philadelphia, then go drop 2 of 3 to Washington. Don't know, man. Don't know what they do. I don't know. I mean, Austin, having Riley out there is a benefit. I mean, there's a couple of guys that are utility. So the good news is you've probably got 3 or 4 positions, maybe 3 or 4 positions where you've got guys on the team that you can move around into different spots and that way take the best available player in a trade if that's the direction you decide to go. But I don't know. I don't know how to handle it if you're Atlanta. What I do know, Kmart, is that I came into this year expecting the Atlanta Braves to, if not outright win the East, contend for it. And, we might be busting it to get a wild card spot. Josh said this year in college, the umps were worse at seeing and all strike zones change from pitch to pitch. Gosh, if there was only a way that we can ensure the strike zone stayed consistent from pitch to pitch and game to game, if there was only a way we could do that. I'm really struggling to come up with one, Lonzo.
You're an evil robot. One minute.
No, see, Steven, you made the mistake of assuming that it was Zoe that could make me disappear. Found self reappear. Oh. Lonzo's like the Vader of the show. I'm the Emperor Palpatine of the show.
What is thy bidding, my master?
Scores, the ups and downs, the ins and outs. Real, unfiltered sports talk. It's the Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate.
The Rob Brown Show rolls on. This is ESPN Upstate. I am Rob. Lonzo, back in the network studio, 844-477-3776, 844-GSP, ESPN is the number. You can text us on the Ingles Market text line at 71307, 71307. A couple of texts that have come in. Seth Curry of the 76ers had a really good game last night, says one texter. And, Seth Curry is kind of talk about a dude that is overlooked. That dude has had a good run this season. I mean, has been very good for the 76ers this season. The 76ers last night ended up, and I'm trying to pull the box scores back up to get back into it. Seth Curry, 30 points last night, 10 of 17 from the floor, 3 of 6 from the arc, went to the stripe for 7 shots and knocked down all 7 of them, plus 11 on the plus minus, had a couple of assists to go along. He's a pure scorer, man. He's a pure scorer. You're not wrong about it, and he showed it last night. At ESPN, the NBA is a joke. During warmups, they are calling found in favor of LeBron James, and teams are 80 feet away from each other. I'm not sure what you meant by that, texter. I don't think the NBA is a joke, but I think they have a problem, right? I don't think they're a joke, but I absolutely think they have a problem. I think they absolutely are in a spot where they have got to find a way to start propping up the next generation of players and get away from the style of play that has led to folks like James Harden becoming, a multiple-time NBA scoring champion, a guy who can go out there and basically just leap into people and get fouls called, while guys like Trae Young, Ja Morant, you telling me Ja Morant, even Zoe raised an eyebrow at this. Ja Morant put up 27 last night and dude didn't get a single foul? You're telling me he was so good? He was so good, Lonzo. So good was Ja Morant that he got off 14 shots that went in, and not a one of them was a defender in range to foul.
Yeah. So I'm guessing he threw them all up from half court. So there's no one around him. He was running down in transition, just threw them all up and made all those shots.
I don't get it. I genuinely don't get how the NBA lets that be the way that the league operates. They got to fix it. I know I kind of sound like an old curmudgeon-y guy on this one, Lonzo, but Fix the problem, man.
Don't get me wrong. If they're light on the fouls on both sides, I'm okay with that. As long as it's not one-sided, and as you said, the one or two stars that are on each team are getting all the fouls. If the refs are swallowing their whistles and are letting them play, let them get out there and bang a little bit, I'm okay with that as long as they're consistent.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with that. But it's just not consistent. It's just not consistent. And that's, to me, that's the biggest problem. If it's a foul on LeBron, then it's a foul on Zion, and it's a foul on RJ Barrett, and it's a foul on Luka, and it's a foul on Ja, and it's a foul on Trey. And if it's not a foul on Trey, then it's not a foul on LeBron, and it's not a foul on Westbrook, and it's not a foul on Harden. Honestly, that to me, I know there are some of you that feel like the NBA has gone off the deep end with the branding and the messaging and all that, and I understand it. I disagree with you, but I understand it. The only problem the NBA has is the inconsistency. It's the only problem, man. Let's take a break. When we come back, David Rhodes is going to join us. David is the co-host of the Panther Nation Podcast. We talked to Rashad Beard weekly. He's out of the country. David's going to step in, fill that spot. We'll talk to him next on the Rob Brown Show. Rob Lonzo, this is ESPN Upstate.
He is standing by the way.
Steven says, I had Rob pegged more like a Jar Jar Binks. Steven, you know what, man? You know what? You messed up, dude. That's messed up. Call me the worst Star Wars character. Just to make those...
That Star Wars character was created for children, and the children loved him.
Yeah, fine. That doesn't make him a good character.
He was created for children. I don't hate Jar Jar, although he did start the evil empire. It was all his fault if you look at it. You know, he's the one who asked for a vote of no confidence.
You've heard the theory of Jar Jar being a Sith Lord.
Not only have I heard the theory, but I believe it's true.
Yep, I subscribe to it because that's the only way I can make those movies have a compelling story.
But
a compelling story, a well-told one.
The kids that enjoyed those movies, though, those are some of their favorites. So you should see the Dave Filoni theory that the movies that happen, the more recent ones,
right,
are all in an alternate reality. And it's actually pretty compelling. And there's tie-ins with Rebels and things like that. It's pretty good. I didn't get to talk about it last week. I think I'm going to talk about it this week. It's very compelling. You know, I don't believe that you and I are Palpatine and Vader, because I think out of the four people on this radio station, I think we're more light side. I just do. I think the evil lies in that show for men. But maybe that's just my perception. You and I are a little more, free, a little more, loose, and others are dictator-like, sort of like Palpatine. Yes.
Warning.
Man, check this out.
You're on official Rob Brown lockdown.
Represents being real. Yeah.
Real, unfiltered
Prisma in the first
sports talk
break.
manufactured locally for the Carolinas.
Lockdown!
This is the Rob Brown Show.
Yeah.
Only on ESPN.
ESPN Upstate.
The Rob Brown Show's back on your radio. This is ESPN Upstate. Hello, Upstate, South Carolina. I am Rob Brown. Lonzo back in the network studio. Thank you very much for hanging out with us today. 844-477-3776. 844-GSP ESPN is the number. I kind of find this story interesting. And I don't know, Zoe. You know, I feel like most of the time I've got at least a decent handle on what the folks listening to the show are intrigued by.
Breaking news. Rob has a grasp on the listening audience.
Is that breaking, Lonzo? Has the thought about me be that I am just so obtuse to our listening audience that I just have no idea what's going on? Don't get me wrong. I know there are a lot of people who believe that.
I got to be honest. I just wanted to break the glass because I hadn't done it yet today.
Well, then go find us some breaking news.
Okay, I'll do that.
You go find us something breaking.
I'll do that. I did that yesterday.
You did.
I had some breaking news yesterday on a certain coach retiring. I mean, you know, I've found some stuff. I'll find something.
Yeah, we got to talk more about Mike Krzyzewski today, as he calls it a career. Former Duke players have been coming out of the woodworks to talk about that guy, to talk about Coach K. Maybe the greatest college, no, not maybe, the greatest college basketball coach of all time. I think for the most part, the majority of us are on board with that. I don't think there's anybody else I'd put up above that. I think there have maybe been others that have had better elements to talk about. Let's get to the phone line. So we got a guest who is joining us. Now, most Thursdays at 1 o'clock, we talk to our guy, Rashad Beard of the Panther Nation Podcast. Today, we go to the bullpen. We call in the righty, filling in for my man, Rashad. David Rhodes, co-host of the Panther Nation Podcast, joins us here on the show. David, my man, good to have you on, buddy. What's happening?
What's going on, man? Everything's everything, man. Rashad's out here traveling the world, and I'm stuck here in the United States, so I'm here to call in.
We can't all be international superstars like Rashad Beard. Some of us have just got to own the small pond. You know what I mean?
I dig it. That's why I'm here.
My man David Rhodes hopping in to talk a little Panther football with us. Look, we've had the opportunity to talk to Rashad, so now we do the same for you about OTAs. David, so we've seen the OTA so far. A couple of weeks ago, I guess about a week and a half ago, we had a young lady named Elena Getzenberger from the Charlotte Observer on to talk a little bit about her impression of Sam Darnold after having been to the OTAs and watching him play. We've been watching the video the last couple of days coming out from OTAs in Charlotte. And look, I've seen some good. I've seen some stuff that needs work. What's your just overall impressions on what we're seeing out of this team through the first handful of days of OTAs?
So far, I'm impressed. But with regards to Sam Darnold, my bar is probably lower than most, only because I think the fan base keeps attributing to what he did with the Jets as thinking, oh, he should be able to improve, but he also made mistakes when he was with the Jets. So, like, my bar is low with regards to Sam, but I'm really looking forward to what the defense is going to look like with J.C. Horn. I think, and then they just announced recently that Jeremy Chin is going to move to safety, which kind of fixes a hole we have there. So I'm really looking forward to see how good the defense do. Like, I think that everybody's been talking about Sam Darnold, but I think we need to be talking more about how the next step that this defense is going to take this upcoming season.
We'll come back to the offense in just a minute because I agree with you. I absolutely think it's something that we need to talk about. But let me throw this one at you. You mentioned Jeremy Chin moving to safety, which I find intriguing. That dude I think has the flexibility to get over there and play that position. But is he a natural fit at the safety position? Look, we saw the cover skills that he had one-on-one with some of the best wide receivers in the NFC South last year. Is it the right call to move him to safety and take him out of one-on-one duty?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, people forget he played safety in college in Southern Illinois. So it's not like I think it'll be a smooth transition for him to go to the safety position. I think he'll be able to cover tight ends. He'll be the last line of defense. I think for our standpoint, considering what we have at the safety position right now prior to this announcement, it's going to be an upgrade than what we currently have. So with him and Burris in the back, that'll be excellent for us, I think.
David Rhodes from the Panther Nation Podcast joining us here on the Rob Brown Show and ESPN Upstate. So I talked to Rashad a number of weeks ago about the potential for the Panthers to change and move from a 4-3 to a 3-4 defense coming up this year based on the personnel decisions that they have made in this offseason. But we know that regardless whether they run 4-4 or 4-3, 3-4, 4-4, I mean, it doesn't matter. They have got to get better at getting pressure on quarterbacks in the NFC South. Matt Ryan, I know a lot of people aren't big fans, still statistically one of the best QBs in the NFL. We know about that dude down in Tampa. And, out of New Orleans, probably going to be Jameis Winston. That's a guy that even though he threw 30 picks, also has had 30 touchdown years in the back pocket. He's still going to pick points up even if he turns the ball over. Where do you see the development of the defensive line this year and the ability for the Panthers to get pressure on the QB?
I think we should be improved there with Gross Matos having another year in, Brian Burns having another year in. I think and then picking up the linebackers and Hassan Reddick. So I think overall with our defense, I think we're going to be able to improve with the pass rush. And now that we drafted J.C. Horn, who's absolutely going to end up being our number one corner at this rate, it's going to help our defense a ton because now we have a threat in the secondary that we haven't had in a very long time. And I love Dante Jackson, but he hasn't been able to cut it from that standpoint, which is why they made the decision to draft J.C. Horn and Keith Taylor later in the draft. So I think overall, we're going to be able to get to the quarterback way more often. The ultimate goal is to get there with 4. But even if we can, I think Phil Snow's schemes are going to allow the front 7 to have more time to do what they need to do.
David Rhodes, the co-host of the Panther Nation Podcast, joining us here on the Rob Brown Show and ESPN Upstate. Make sure you follow them on Twitter at Panther Nation PC, but definitely on their YouTube channel where they put up some great content. Let's talk offense for just a minute, David. And obviously the story is Sam Darnold. I mean, we know that there are some other storylines we're going to talk about. Terrace Marshall out of LSU, how he fits in with a pretty good wide receiver core. And we're going to talk offensive line in just a minute as well. But the story is about Sam Darnold. And what have you seen that you like? What have you seen that you not like? I know it's OTAs. I know it's basically elementary level stuff that they're working on before we get to training camp down here in our neck of the woods in a couple of weeks over in Spartanburg. But through the first handful of days of Sam Darnold getting under a Panther lid for the first time, what are you seeing that you like and don't?
I mean, I think Sam is it's kind of, for me, man, like I can't really get into the skin of it yet until we get into the training camp side of the fence. I think overall Sam's been looking fine. I'm banking that a fresh start is going to help him. I just hope there's continuity. I think my biggest concern for Sam's sake is making sure we get that line short up. Because I think we still have a challenge with the left tackle position there. And I think once we get that short up, I think everything else is going to fall into place. I don't think we're going to access that much from Sam this year, in my opinion. So, me and Rashad has been arguing about what the expectation is for Sam Darnold. For me, I think he's going to probably end up being game manager status this first season. And then once he gets his feet in, then he'll be better. I don't think I want him to be slinging it like everybody expects him today.
Sure. And I guess that's one of the big things that we've talked about right now. I still think Sam Darnold has potential to be a great quarterback. I really do. I am one of the people who put his struggles at the feet of the New York Jets, being a frankly pathetic organization that wasted a good portion of his career early. Is Matt Rule going to use him in a game manager format? Is Matt Rule going to use him in a format where he dinks and ducks? Or are we going to get to see Sam Darnold, do you think, turn it wide open and go prove that he can be a big ball quarterback?
I'm for the first year, I'm leaning towards game manager Sam, only because I think what they've done defensively, picking up folks with the scheme that they're trying to do on defense, the draft picks that they had on offense, I think he's going to be more on the game manager. And I think the Tommy Tremble pick, McCaffrey coming back, I think they're going to do more ball control offense. And I think they're going to bank on the defense being better. Like, I think, and I said this to Rashad, and he thought I was crazy when I said it, but the defense should be top 10. And if the defense is top 10, Sam doesn't have to be big game Sam. He just got to make sure he reduces the turnover ratio. And I think he's capable of doing that with the help that he's going to have around him.
All right. So speaking of Sam Darnold, I'm going to put you on the spot, and I'm going to let you either rip or ride with your co-host Rashad. So we were talking about the quarterback prospects and projects of Matt Rule in Carolina. We know that he had a hand in Teddy Bridgewater being the starter last year. This year, Sam Darnold's the guy. There was talk that the Panthers would be in play for a couple of other quarterbacks, including the potential to draft Justin Fields in the first round of the NFL draft. But he decided ultimately to go with Sam Darnold, and the rest of the quarterbacks on his roster for the first time are his guys. They are hand-picked Matt Rule projects. If Matt Rule misses on Sam Darnold, misses on the rest of the quarterbacks on the roster, missed on Teddy Bridgewater, Rashad said that he would consider that a major failure at the feet of Matt Rule and might be willing to already crank up the hot seat, because if a coach can't develop and find a quarterback, it's not going to work. Are you going to ride with Rashad, or are you going to rip Rashad on this one?
I'm riding with him because let the record show. I said the moment that we traded for Sam Darnold, that Matt Rule's career as the head coach of Carolina is going to ride on Sam Darnold. Like, you can't get to the point of having three different quarterbacks in 3 consecutive years. So, like, this is it for Matt. Like, this is the one. Like, he's going to ride or die with him. So I'm absolutely with Rashad. If Sam Darnold does not pan out, Matt Rule's job is on the line. Like, and you got to consider that David Tepper has not seen a winning season since he's taken over this team as the owner. So I don't know how much patience Tepper is going to have if the Panthers go 5-12, 4-13. Like, I don't think he's going to have any type of level of patience at that point. I think new GM, I think they could potentially clean house if this season goes the wrong way too early, in my opinion. Like, I think this seat could get hot quickly if this season goes the wrong way from the gate. It shouldn't, with all the talent that we have, but I could see that happening if you're talking another double-digit loss season.
So you said it shouldn't. It shouldn't as in the season shouldn't go sideways, or it shouldn't as in the hot seat should not get hot if it does?
This season should not go sideways. And if it does go sideways, the hot seat is going to be hot. It is going to be flaming hot if this season goes sideways. Like, I think Rule can keep his job even if we don't make the playoffs, but it's about the how, right? Like, if you only have 4 wins, I could see a scenario where Rule wasn't the coach after this year. I legitimately can see that. Now, if it's like 8-9, 9-8, don't make the playoffs, Rule will get another year because that's still progress. I mean, he came up a 5-win season, but I don't think he can go backwards at this point because he keeps swapping quarterbacks. And even if they give him an additional year at a 5-win season, they're gonna probably have to roll with Sam another season. So it's going to be interesting to see. The drama that's going to occur depending on which way the season goes. And we're going to have a pretty good idea after week 1 because he's going to get to play his former team, this team that he just came from that didn't give him the tools needed to help him. So it's going to be interesting to say the least. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm
David Rhodes, host of the Panther Nation Podcast, joining us here on the Rob Brown Show. So let me ask you, and I didn't intend David, for this conversation to go this way, but the way you're talking about it, I'm very curious. So I've said on my show that my expectations for the Panthers this year are probably 7-9. I mean, 8-8, maybe, or I say 7-9. We're now at a 17-game season. So let's say like 7-10, maybe 8-9, floating around that 500 mark, although no teams can be 500 now that I think about that. That's interesting. Anyway, Look, you're playing in the NFC South. You got 6 games right out the gate. Now, question marks about Atlanta, obviously. They've got a new coach finally. I still think it's a franchise problem. The fact that Julio Jones is sitting there, he's getting traded. He said he's getting traded last week, and they haven't found somebody and a way to pull this off yet. Gives me concern. The Saints don't know what they're going to do or what's going to look like at the quarterback spot, but we still know they have Alvin Kamara. They have Michael Thomas. They got a decent defense. They got Sean Payton, who every time he's pushed against the wall, he comes up with some goofy stuff to get away. And, of course, there's Tampa. That's 6 right there. 4 are, I would say 60-40 in favor of Carolina losing, and 2 that Carolina loses to Tampa if it goes right, but we'll see. If Matt Rules goes, let's say 6-10 this year, but let's say of that 10, right? 8. So we had 8 games last year for Carolina that Carolina was within 1 score and had the ball at the end. Now they went 0-8 in those. So let's say they win the same amount of games as last year, but they get 3 or 4 of those 1 possession games to go their way this year. Is that enough for David Tepper to continue to invest in the program as it stands?
Yeah, if the Panthers go 8-9, I think Tepper's not going to make a move at this point. I think you give Darnold his final year. I don't think you extend him, right? But you let him play his final year of his contract. You let Rule get 1 more year to do it. But then at that point, it's going to be playoffs and bust in 2022, right? So if they win 7 games, 8 games, 9 games, Rule's safe. I just don't think he can come out of here with 5 games. And, he cannot go 5-12. Like, that can't happen at this point. Because at that point, you're going to, especially if you have a scenario where he doesn't win those late games again. Because then now it's about preparation. It's coming down to preparation at this point when you start talking about not able to win those close games. Right.
David Rhodes of the Panther Nation Podcast joining us here on the Rob Brown Show and ESPN Upstate. All right, I want to 2 more position groups I want to talk about. We'll let you go, David. First is the wide receiver core. We know that with Anderson and Moore, the foundation was already there. I think that you guys stumbled upon a superstar in Terrence Marshall. I think that kid is going to show out. I don't know that he's going to be a top 10 wide receiver statistically in the league, but I think he is one of those guys that lays everything he has out for the team, is a great leader, and will be an excellent third receiver, an excellent Z option receiver for Sam Darnold. Is that chemistry with Sam Darnold there so far in the OTAs? Does it look like they've got the timing down? Does it look like they've got the behind-the-scenes chemistry down?
Well, I know that Terrence Marshall's trying to take his time, too, because he talked to Matt Rule about, he wanted to take his time because he wanted to play in the league for a very long time, because I know he's had some injuries in college. So far, so good. There's been speculation about Robbie Anderson. I hope they don't trade him, but there's just talks that they might trade him, which means that Terrence Marshall might be a starter next year if that happens. So I love Terrence Marshall. I love the kid. I think he's perfect for what we want to do. But so far so good, man. I'm kind of happy with what I'm seeing so far with Terrence.
Let's talk offensive line. This, to me, at the end of the day, David Rhodes, this is where the Panther season is made or broken, right? Sam Darnold can only be as good as the offensive line lets him be. And let's just be brutally honest with each other. There's just not much good that's being discussed regarding the Panthers offensive line. You've got some guys that are going to moving around. We know Mouton has been playing across different positions at the line as kind of the anchor. I don't know where to go. I don't know if there's a trade coming down the line. I don't know if they'll be keeping an eye out for cast-offs from other teams heading into training camp or what. It's clear something needs to be done. It was not addressed. Obviously, you brought in Christensen in the draft, but outside of that, I don't think it was addressed enough. If there is a downfall to this season and this team this year, David Rhodes, is it the offensive line?
Yeah, and it's funny. I think they did try to address the offensive line. Like me and Rashad goes back and forth about this, but I think they tried to address the offensive line. The problem is that they really didn't address the left tackle position. Because if we could start 4 guards, I think we'll be fine. But that's not how the NFL works, right? We have a plethora of guards. Our guard position is going to be on lock. Taylor Moton at the right tackle position. I think we'll be in a good spot. There's been talks that maybe they might move Taylor to the left side, which might not be a bad idea if they don't feel confident in the left tackle that they have, but the left tackle position makes me nervous. I think Trey Scott played well last season at starting at left tackle. I anticipate him winning the job again. Even with our line at that state, it still should be an upgrade to what Sam Darnold had last year. So from that standpoint, I'm still nervous about the left tackle spot, but it should be a better situation for Sam. I was disappointed that they did not be a little bit more aggressive with the left tackle position, though.
Yeah, I think that was of the positions that we talked about coming into the draft. That was a big one. One more guy specifically I want to ask about, and obviously being down here by Columbia, that's J.C. Horn out of South Carolina. I've seen some tape on him coming out of the OTAs, and I personally have been very impressed. David Rhodes with J.C. Horn. The dude looks NFL ready. I have watched some one-on-one drills. I have watched some zone drills. Stays low, keeps the hips locked where they need to be until it's time to turn. The pad level never changes throughout coverage. It never changes until he gets into a sprint, able to open up to both sides of the field. You know, I said coming to this, I think, and I want to say it was you. It may have been you that agreed with me that I thought at number 8 they were going cornerback. I didn't know if it was going to be Patrick Surtain or J.C. Horn. I thought J.C. Horn was an option because not only were those two guys kind of graded out about equal for me, but you bring in a South Carolina guy and maybe invigorate the fan base for the Panthers down here in the Upstate. I got to tell you, so far, it looks like that was a fantastic number 8 pick. I know it's only OTAs, but that dude, to me, on film, has looked NFL ready. Are you seeing the same thing out of J.C. Horn?
Yes, sir. And we both agreed that we thought that Carolina was going to go corner with the 8th pick. I think for me my theory was if Sewell's there, that's the pick. Otherwise, it's going to be a corner. And I think they got a good one with Horn. And I think a lot of the fan base was kind of feeling a certain type of way because Fields was there. But in my eyes, I'm thinking if Horn ends up being a top 10 corner, we won. We absolutely won. We haven't had a shutdown corner in a very long time. And we have an opportunity to have one for the next 4 or 5 years, maybe longer. So I love what I see so far with J.C. Horn. Like, I think he's going to be our number 1 quarter day 1. So I'm looking forward to it, man. I was so happy we went with him.
I think you are spot on, man. Absolutely spot on. My man, David Rhodes, is the co-host along with Rashad Beard of the Panther Nation Podcast. You can follow them on Twitter at Panther Nation PC, Panther Nation PC, but make sure you are following them on YouTube. Follow the Panther Nation Podcast on YouTube. They go live every Monday. I always say this, Rashad, you guys claim to go live every Monday, but dude, you guys go live like 5 times a week with stuff to talk about.
Yeah, and I started my fantasy focus a few weeks ago. So I got another video coming out tomorrow. I did my first fantasy mock draft tomorrow, so it's going to be fun times, man. I've been focusing on fantasy now since the draft is over. So but that's the plan. I'm going to keep it rolling.
I love it. Go hit him up at Panther Nation Podcast on both Twitter and the YouTube. David, my man, I appreciate you stepping up. Give your boy Rashad some slack for delaying us, but we are glad to have you on, and we'll do it again real soon, partner.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
You got it. It's David Rhodes, Panther Nation Podcast. We're back after this on the Rob Brown Show. This is ESPN Upstate.
Charisma.
The Rob Brown Show. Listen on your Amazon or Google smart speaker. Just say, play ESPN Upstate.
Our friends at Prisma Health are here for you. They want you to understand that your health care is their priority because it's your priority as well. That's why they make it as easy, as convenient as they can to be there for you when you have a healthcare need. And we're not just talking about basic healthcare, regardless of the healthcare struggle you are going through. If you are someone that you know needs orthopedic help, you are someone you know is struggling with cancer, mental issues, weight issues. It doesn't matter. They are here to help you. Go to prismahealth.org. You can learn more. 2,400 medical providers within their network. Locations all around the Midlands and the Upstate. The My Chart feature keeps all of your information confidential, but streamlined and available to you, so you know exactly where you are and where you stand with your healthcare needs. Prisma Health is the official healthcare provider of both the Gamecocks and the Tigers, and they want to be the official healthcare provider for you and your family as well. Check them out at prismahealth.org. Prismahealth.org. It's our friends at Prisma Health in the Upstate. I was not playing Mario Brothers during the break. Lonzo.
During the interview.
Or during the interview, excuse me. It happened. I had to officially change my my text tone. Long story short, down there in Florida this weekend, apparently, Lonzo, the only person who did not find my text phone, my text ringer, both hilarious and fantastic, was the lady friend who decided after about the fourth time that it went off on the drive down to Florida that I had two options, which was to change my ringer or to find another ride down to Florida. So I had to change it, and the best I could come up with was a sound similar to Mario's coins coming out of the box. Absolutely could.
Whereas I absolutely was playing a game the entire time you were doing the interview.
Steven says he can't hear. Our audio's good on our end, Steven. Did you mute us on accident, pal?
Well, if he did, he's not going to hear you asking that.
Great question.
1 minute.
Oh, so you can hear us now. So I can minimize the my video.
Seconds.
Is this true though? I'm not a nobody cares. I don't really have to, like, I've never had a really
Made for Upstate sports junkies.
You and Mark Ryan are weird.
You eat sports like
That's
food
weird,
every
man.
day. Get hooked on the Rob Brown Show, noon to 3 every weekday on ESPN Upstate.
So that you guys know, I was not playing Super Mario Brothers while I was doing that interview with David Rhodes. I had forgotten to turn the ringer on my phone to vibrate. And if you have missed it in the past, my old sounder on my phone sounded like this. Oh, of course it was muted. Let me do it. My old sounder sounded like this. Right? That's the sound that played when I used to get a text. Well, on the ride down to Florida this past weekend, the lady friend decided that she could not handle that ringer. And after about the fourth time it went off in the car ride on the way down, she said, you got two options. You can find a new ringer, or you can find another ride down to Florida, because we were in her car.
There's a third option. There's there's this thing on the side of the phone. You just click it, and then you don't hear it anymore. I'm just saying.
Because we drove this, so we drove down on Thursday. And when I'm driving in the car, I try not to look at my phone, right? But I need to know if I get like an email or whatever from work, because our job never stops, right?
By the way, Rob, here's just a life lesson. When you are away, turn it off, man.
It's not my style, man.
You can do it. You absolutely can do it.
I'm one of those people. It's not my style. Even if I'm away from work, I want to make sure that if something needs to get done, it gets done, right? And so on Friday, when everybody else was working, I got to keep the phone on. But and on top of that, when my phone's on vibrate for whatever reason, dude, unless I'm holding it in my hand, if it vibrates, I just don't recognize it. So I have to keep it on loud most of the time. I mean, I'm not the guy like for at dinner, I'm going to put it on vibrate, but I'll put it on it like in my pocket so that if it goes off, I feel it. But if I'm standing up, I don't. Anyway, blah, you don't care. I had to change my text ringer to that so that she wouldn't throw my phone into the Gulf of Mexico. Bummer is,
but she was okay with that, which is more thumbs up for her.
Yeah, I mean she's not a gamer, but like one of our first hangouts, one of the first times I went to her place, Zoe, and I'm like, hey, what do you want to do? She's like, hey, what do you say we fire up the old regular Nintendo Entertainment System, like the OG Nintendo, and play Excite Bike, and what was the other one? The Delivery Boy. Remember Delivery Boy and Excite Bike?
I think she scouted you. That's what I think.
You're probably not wrong, but she owned it. I mean, it wasn't like she went out and bought that.
Okay, all right.
She already owned it before me, so
I'm guessing she probably has skills at those games too. So,
I mean, she can't beat me. She can't beat me, but it is what it is. Anyway, so that's it. Did, however, it does create that situation. I always waited for that moment. I think I told you guys when I had the side trombone sounder that somebody told me that their cat died. And my phone went, wah, 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 wah. It doesn't get funnier than that. All right, let's take a break. When we come back here in just a minute from right now, yesterday, the College Football Hall of Fame nominees for the class of 2021 were released. I'm going to give you the list of who is on it and some of my favorite memories from a few of them. I'm going to ask for yours as well. We'll do that next on The Rob Brown Show. This is ESPN Upstate.
The Rob Brown Show. Listen on your Amazon or Google smart speaker.
Hit the restroom. And we're back.
Golf cart in the next break.
Outstanding.
One minute.
In honor of Rob's attire today and do it. It is not acid reflux, Steve. I probably should stop drinking carbonated
Join
drinks.
the Rob Brown Lockdown on Twitter. Tweet at The Rob Brown Show on the Upstate Sports Leader, ESPN Upstate.
2021 College Football Hall of Fame nominees have been released. On that list: Reggie Bush, Andrew Luck, Marshawn Lynch are the highlights. Of course, Reggie Bush, back during his USC days, won the Heisman Trophy back in 2005. However, he returned the award in 2010 after a probe determined that while a student athlete, he and his family members had accepted cash travel expenses and a home in the San Diego area where Bush's parents lived rent-free for more than a year and for which they were provided $10,000 to finish. USC disassociated itself from Bush for 10 years and removed him from the record books before they welcomed him back in 2020. The renewed association allowed Bush to finally be allowed to be nominated for the Hall of Fame. Otherwise, he would have appeared on the ballot back in 2017. Man, I hate to go all full nostalgia, Lonzo, but watching Reggie Bush play in the early 2000s, you knew you were watching something special, right? You knew you were watching something different. This kid was the definition of electric, and whether he was running back punts or coming out of the backfield, Reggie Bush was just faster than everybody. He was more elusive than everybody. When you watched Reggie Bush play, you knew that you were watching somebody special in the college football ranks, somebody that we'd be talking about for a long time. Look, I understand that accepting the improprieties was something that cost him. It cost him a lot, not in terms of money, but in terms of being able to continue to build his legacy within the USC ranks all time. But I also go, you know what? I don't really care. Or let me phrase that. I shouldn't say I don't care. I don't put the blame for that situation on him, right? I mean, Reggie Bush was a guy who kind of came out of nowhere, came from nothing. And if USC came to me and said, hey, we're going to give you a mansion for free, we're going to give you $10,000 to decorate it, we're going to send your parents around the country to watch you play, we're going to make sure your mama and papa are taken care of, I had to tell you, as a 17-year-old kid, I would have probably also said yes to that. I've never held a grudge against Reggie Bush for any of that. That dude was just a lifetime of college football memories wrapped up into a 3-year career. So I don't know, man. Reggie Bush on my list of all-time favorite players that I got to watch play, Reggie Bush is a top 3 guy for me.
See, I was hoping you wouldn't come to me because it just seems like you and I have been at odds before the show even started today. I think Reggie Bush is overrated. I thought he was overrated in college. Definitely was not the NFL player that everyone touted him that he was going to be. There's so much hype around him. And what did he do? He didn't really
won a Super Bowl.
What NFL team did he play for?
The Saints, the Dolphins, and the Lions.
Okay. All right.
A good Saints team, by the way.
Okay.
So here's what happened to Reggie Bush when he got to the league.
And by the way, taking the money and everything, this has nothing to do with my opinion of him. I'm just talking about because he could have said no and should have said no. But on the field, he is one of those. Every once in a while, you get those players that kind of like in your case, how you feel about Tim Tebow. You get those players that they hype so much and they're everywhere, and all you see is, man, this guy is so good. And then you watch him play, and he's just like, yeah, he's good, but he's not as good as the hype.
I am going to say respectfully, Zoe, if you watched Reggie Bush play in college and you thought Reggie Bush was overrated in college, I need to know where you were getting your ratings from. I need to know exactly who you were getting your ratings from. Reggie Bush was great in college. Arguably, one of the best. I mean, I don't necessarily want to put a rank on it, but if I had to rank the college football players of my lifetime, Reggie Bush is a top 5 running back of my lifetime. And I would argue inside the top 5, the top 3 of the top 5. The dude was that good. In the NFL, yeah, he never really became what a lot of people wanted him to be in the NFL. I don't disagree. But as a Saints fan, I feel qualified to speak on this. Reggie Bush was infinitely valuable to what the New Orleans Saints were doing in 2006 when he got brought in through the Super Bowl run. Infinitely valuable. Reggie Bush was a dude that was more than capable of breaking things wide open. He ran some punts back for the Saints for touchdowns that year that helped win some big games. He was electric as a special teamer. But Reggie Bush was a guy who demanded attention, who demanded double teams when he was on the field. And Reggie Bush became as much of a decoy as he did a threat with the football. If you sent Reggie Bush out into the flats, you would better send either your best defensive backfield player with him, or you better double him up. Because if you did not, and the dude snagged one, he was gone if he got any space at all. So what ended up happening was either had to send your best open field defender against him, or you had to double him up and end up breaking a zone somewhere else for other guys on that team to make plays. Yeah, I wish the numbers would have been there for Reggie Bush's NFL career, but he does not get, because if you didn't watch that team and pay attention to that team and the way that team operated in the offense with Reggie Bush on it, I can see how Reggie Bush looked to be just kind of a mediocre running back. But I assure you, as a Saints fan, he was infinitely valuable to what Sean Payton. Without Reggie Bush, Sean Payton's offense that year did not work. It didn't work because they did not have, I mean, they had the Colstons of the world, but he did not have some of the elite talent that you would have liked down the road. And Reggie Bush opened up the door for other guys to be great behind Drew Brees. And it worked. And it worked. All right. I didn't intend for this to be a Reggie Bush segment, but I don't care either. It felt good. Andrew Luck on that list as well. Marshawn Lynch out of Cal, 17 100-yard rushing games, led the Golden Bears to a share of the Pac-10 title in 2006, was the conference's offensive player of the year while leading the league in rushing with 1356, all-purpose yards, 1785, and 15 touchdowns as well. Some of the other notable names amongst first-time FBS players: Sean Alexander, LeVar Arrington, Eric Berry, Michael Crabtree, Sylvester Croom, Warwick Dunn, Toby Gerhart, Graham Harrell, Jeremy Macklin, Kellen Moore, Paul Puslesny, and Peter Warwick. How about Peter Warwick making his first time on the list? Holdovers include Champ Bailey, Marvin Harrison, Tony Gonzalez, Julius Peppers, Rashawn Salam, Larry Coker, who guided Miami to its most recent national championship all the way back in 2001, is on the ballot for the first time as well. So a pretty interesting group of names there. Let's take a break. When we come back here in just a minute from right now, bad news for the Olympics. 50 days before they are scheduled to start up. This is a huge blow Will it impact the games? I'll tell you that next on the Rob Brown Show. It's ESPN Upstate.
Golf cart.
The Rob Brown Show. Listen on your computer and tablet at ESPNUpstate.com.
The 2021 Upstate Golf Cart is on sale right now and through Father's Day. It is only $75. I used to play golf with my pops all the time before he passed. We lived on a golf course. Very lucky to get out there and swing the sticks with him. It is a fantastic way, if you are fortunate enough to be able to spend Father's Day with your old man. It's a great way to get out there, to laugh, to cut up, to have some fun, and to talk a little smack to each other as fathers and sons are wont to do. Make sure that you take advantage of this and take pops for a day out on the golf course. It is and maybe not just pops, man. Bring little brother, bring the uncles, bring everybody. Get out there, go enjoy, go have some fun. Golf is a phenomenal way to get out and enjoy some of the most beautiful weather around the country. You got to get it now, though. Go to upstategolfcard.com to learn more. Upstategolfcard.com. Pick up yours. 9 courses, 9 rounds, $75. Good luck beating that deal. It is the 2021 Upstate Golf Card. If you have not seen it yet, Lonzo, Disney put out a tour of the new Avengers campus that they've built out at Disney World, California, and it is freaking cool.
Yeah, I saw the headline. I just haven't had a chance to look at it yet.
It is cool. I don't love the Spider-Man ride that they came up with. I think it leaves a little something to be desired. It's cool in principle, right? It's a cool theory, but I feel like it could have been a better ride. Basically, Peter Parker has created what he calls the Spider Bot. It's basically his answer to Falcon's Falcon sidekick and Red Hawk. But the problem is he built it in, and the Spider Bot learned how to replicate, and it's running amok amongst the lab. And you get inside of this cart and you ride around with your 3D glasses on. But what's cool is the cart has motion trackers in front of it. And so to help Spider-Man, you have to recapture all of the spider bots. And as you're riding around this ride, they're crawling around, and you flick your wrist at them, and a motion sensor within the cart detects where you're flicking your wrist. And so you shoot webbing at the spider bots, and you actually capture them as Peter Parker, as Spider-Man, helps you. Which, dude, you created this thing where I can actually flip webs and whatnot.
I was gonna say, that's
fighting little robot spiders. Come on, man.
That sounds really cool. How many times do you think that ride will actually operate correctly, though? If you've ever been on anything like that, I mean, they're usually sporadic, and it works half the time. So.
Like I mean, look, I think it's got potential to be cool tech, and I think they need to upgrade it, or they are upgrading. They'll continue working on it. And I think it's got potential to be really interesting, but it's just, that's the story. Peter created a robot that, by the way, isn't doing anything. It's not like it's just damaging the lab. It's not like it's out robbing and killing people. And you get this great tech where I actually get to flick webs like Spider-Man, and you've got me shooting them at little robot puppy dogs. Like, you couldn't let me fight Doc Ock and, like, web his arms to the wall or something?
So is this a ride that little kids can ride, though? If so, then, then it's probably good for them.
It is, but, like...
1 minute.
I don't know, man. Like, I know this is one of those times where people with kids are going to look at me and go, "You're so selfish." But, like, I've been a Spider-Man for 36 years. I finally get a chance to ride with Spider-Man and flick webs with him, and you've got me tracking down rogue Roombas. That's what you got me going after? Come on, man. But the rest of the campus looks awesome. Like,
it's more proof that you're pro robot because you don't want people pursuing and
that is not
and going after the robots.
God, Lonzo.
Those poor spider bots. What did they do? It's not their fault. They didn't create themselves.
And they're not doing anything. They're not like hurting people. Final segment of this hour, 1 hour to go after that. Bad news for the Olympics. Learned earlier today that so far in a mass walkout, 10,000 unpaid volunteers for the Tokyo Olympics and Paralympics have told organizers that they will not participate when the games open on July 23rd. The Olympics require about 80,000 unpaid volunteers in order to successfully operate. And these people come from all around the globe. They work a variety of jobs around the Olympics to make sure that they run smoothly. But you are talking, I'm bad at math, but 15-ish%, 17-ish% of all the volunteers walking out and not being there. Organizers said that some of them dropped out because of worries about COVID-19, and few volunteers are expected to be vaccinated since most will have no contact with athletes or key personnel, but there's still 80,000 of them. Japan is still hovering. They have managed in the past 2 weeks to vaccinate an additional 1% of their population. So now that vaccination rate is hovering around 2.5% of the population. Now, the good news is that the vaccination rollout has sped up over the past week or so, and they are expecting that number of total vaccinated people will rise sometime in the very near future. And they expect that at least 80%, but they're hoping closer towards 90 or more percent of the athletes and residents of the Olympic Village will be vaccinated. But 10,000 volunteers have now walked out of the Olympics and said that they are not going to go there. Now, the interesting news is that it appears support for the Olympics, while it is still opposed by a majority of the Japanese citizens, the opposition to the games has dropped. A couple of weeks ago, the opposition was between 70 and 90%, depending on how the question is phrased. According to ESPN, that opposition has dropped to around 50 to 80% opposition. It's not a huge drop, but as the vaccination process has begun to speed up over the past week, at least some people are turning around to jump on board. Tokyo officials are spending $15.4 billion to pull off these Olympics. Several government audits say it's much more than that, and all but $6.7 billion of it is public money. The IOC's contribution is about $1.5 billion so far. Now, the good news, Japan has attributed just over 13,000 deaths to COVID-19, far lower than most comparable countries, but still higher than many Asian neighbors on the continent of Asia. On Thursday, the Japanese Soccer Association said a member of the team from Ghana had tested positive upon arrival in Tokyo. The player was separated and placed in quarantine. Earlier in the week, soccer players from Jamaica were unable to go to Japan because of issues with coronavirus testing. They were to have played the Japanese national team in a warm-up for these Olympic Games, which start in 50 days, and the clock is ticking. 10,000 volunteers have walked off. 10,000 volunteers have pulled their name from consideration of volunteering at the Olympics. It is a massive blow. I don't think that it will be enough to cancel the games. If all 80,000 bounce, then they wouldn't have had a choice. But coming up on 20% of volunteers saying that they are out is a pretty big number. So now we wait to find out if the next step, or what the next step, I should say, is going to be. Coming up in the next hour of the Rob Brown Show, we open it up by talking a little bit of South Carolina basketball and baseball. The series record is bad for the Canes, but there's a little spark of hope. I'll tell you what it is, and at 2:20 Fight Club with Lonzo. All things combat sports around the Upstate. That's all next on the Rob Brown Show and ESPN Upstate.
This headache is kicking my butt, man.
You all right, buddy?
Oh, 3 days.
3 days straight you've been dealing with sinuses?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, that's the worst. You want me to bring anything when we get off the air?
No, because it will. And plus, remember, I'm going from one show to the next.
That's what I'm saying. If you need me to bring something up there for you, I can drop it off in the studio.
I do appreciate it, but anything I take makes me sleepy.
I got you.
And even taking, yeah, and I just took one Tylenol, and if I take two, I'm done. If I take one, sometimes it makes me a little hazy. I'm just very sensitive to medication, so. But was it Black Crows or Counting Crows? It said pain will make you know everything's gonna be all right, I think.
And check this out.
Your unofficial Rob Brown lockdown.
Represents being real. Yeah.
Real, unfiltered sports talk manufactured locally for the Carolinas.
Lockdown.
This is the Rob Brown Show.
Yeah.
Only on ESPN.
ESPN Upstate.
Third hour of the Rob Brown Show gets going now. This is ESPN Upstate. Hello, Upstate, South Carolina. Tremendous to be back with you again. I am Rob Brown, the great one Lonzo, at the helm as we get through the money hour of the show. Hurricanes Lightning game number 3 is tonight at 8 o'clock in the evening. This one down in Tampa Bay, as the Lightning will host the Canes and are hanging on to a 2-0 lead in the series over the Caniacs. Now, I will tell you, look, I said that if Carolina went down 0-2 and completely surrendered home ice advantage to the Lightning, which they have, they can be swept on away ice now, that if they surrendered a 2-0 lead to the Lightning, I didn't go so far as to say the series was over. I didn't go so far as to say that I would put money on Tampa Bay finishing off Carolina. Let you go, Rob. It's a 2-0 lead. Of course, the odds are in the favor of Tampa. I understand that. Here's the problem. The problem is the breaks aren't going the way of Carolina at home. I don't expect it to change up all that much. Now, I hope that it does. We were reading the quotes yesterday from Carolina goaltender Alex Nedeljkovic, who was in net for the Canes, 26 saves against the Lightning the last time they played in the regular season. And that is where this faint glimmer of hope comes from. Way back in April, which was 18 years ago in coronavirus time, Nedeljkovic made 26 saves on 27 shots, and the Canes went down to Tampa and thoroughly beat the Lightning. A 4-1 victory. Jordan Stahl was in the scoring category. Steven Lorentz was in the scoring category. So were Geeky and Paquette. All four of those guys were able to net one. And that is what you got to hope is where the hope comes from, right? That's where you got to hope the glimmer of hope comes from. You're down 2-0. Tampa has, and I don't want to say controlled the series because both games 1 and games 2 and game 2 were good hockey games. Carolina was down 0-2 in the last one. I could say Tampa was in control of game 2. First one was a toss-up game that Tampa ended up walking away with the W. But they were games. The last time that Carolina was in Tampa, it was a 4-1 win. It was an absolute beatdown. And that's what you got to hope the Canes take some solace in. That should be the one that if I am Carolina, I've got that game on an absolute loop playing in the locker room all the way up to travel day. I got it playing on the TVs in the airplane on the flight down. I got it playing in the locker room at Tampa when we walk into Emily Stadium. I got it playing everywhere I can find. I'm emailing clips of it to these guys so they can watch it on the cell phone. I am doing anything I can to make sure that the Carolina Hurricanes are understanding that the last time you boys were down there in Florida, you waxed this team. Now, we do know that in the last game in Tampa, Nino Niederreiter had a goal and an assist and was named the game's first star. Center Vincent Trocheck set up Niederreiter for a score with a little backhand pass into the slot the second period for a 1-0 lead. The Canes never gave that lead back, but neither one of those guys will be in the lineup tonight. Niederreiter has that upper body injury, has not played in the series, and will not travel or did not travel with Carolina down to Tampa. Rod Brindamore said yesterday afternoon that Trocheck had an injured leg in game 2, was still being evaluated. His status is unknown, but after game 2, he said that it, quote, did not look good, end quote. So you're probably going to have to bring Paquette back into the lineup. He has played in the past 2 games with Niederreiter out. You've got to assume he is going to be a big part of it. I told you yesterday or Tuesday. Weeks are weird with a holiday in them. Told you on Tuesday that Carolina needed to find a star. They needed to find a hero. They've got to find a hero, and they've got to find him now. It is not an option. There's not time anymore. They got to find the guy, and I don't know who it is. The guys who are traditionally your heroes are out right now with injuries. Jordan Stahl needs to step up. Now, the big question is, do you make a change at goalkeeper, right? Nedeljkovic was very good in that series against Nashville that went 6 games. Nedeljkovic was very good in that series, but it's a pair of losses. Do you go to Mrazek? The answer to me is no. You ride with Nedeljkovic. The guy's been good. He had one mistake in that game against Tampa. That second goal, he blew it. He was out of position. He was off his line, and it ended up being the difference maker. Without that goal, If everything else stays the same, Carolina scores late in that game, which I don't know if they would have pulled the goalie or not at that point. I assume that they would have down 1-0. But Carolina scores at that point. You've got yourself a 1-1 game. You're going to overtime, and the Caniacs were bringing the wood, right? I think it's too early to pull Alex Nedeljkovic. The guy has been consistent. With a couple of exceptions, he's been a wall in these playoffs. In fact, I go back to the series against Nashville that took 6 to put the Preds away. And in a series that I told you from the beginning, I think a lot of folks were expecting that series was going to be over before it started. I didn't think it was. I told you I thought that was going to be arguably the most competitive first-round series in the Stanley Cup playoffs. All right? I really did. Turned out it was one of the most competitive in the Stanley Cup Series round 1. All right? That was not a series set up for the Canes to go out there and wallop Nashville, despite some people thinking they would. And Nedeljkovic was good in that series. Here's the thing. You can be a great goalkeeper if nobody's putting the puck in the net on the other end of the ice, then it doesn't matter. Then it just does not matter. Nedeljkovic was waiting for run support in that last series. And frankly, to some degree, I think he's waiting for run support in this one. I don't think that it is time to panic if you are Carolina about your defense. Your defense has been more than adequate. It hasn't been great, but it's been more than adequate. I think the panic comes in from the fact that you're not finding the bounces, you're not finding the rebounds in the crease to just poke into the net on the other end and go get some goals. And if you go in that direction and you're not putting goals in, it doesn't matter whether it's Nedeljkovic or anybody else in goal on the other end, right? Yeah, I would love him to pitch some shutouts. I'd love him to get a shutout tonight at Tampa and have a 1-0 scoreline be enough. But you got to get the puck in the net. Carolina, as has been pointed out by Nedeljkovic, by Brendan Moore, and by others, not getting the bounces that they got in Nashville. They're just not. Sometimes the puck doesn't slide your way. Here's the thing. Even if the puck's not sliding your way, and we've talked about this, if the puck's not sliding your way, you still have to find a way to make it work. You still have to find a way to make it work. You still have to create more opportunities, and Carolina did not do that in these first 2 games. I cannot listen, I'm not going to try to tell you that Nedeljkovic has been the best goalkeeper in the Stanley Cup playoffs so far. But I can tell you he's been far from the worst. He's been more than good enough to be in this spot. So to be in a spot where you're down 2-0 against Tampa, division winner, it's not the end of the world, but it's close. The nuke sirens are going off for Carolina right now. If you are not creating more opportunities tonight, then I don't care if you build a literal brick wall in front of the goal. If you are not scoring, then nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. Carolina's got to find the guy tonight. There has got to be a guy on that bench who steps up, who goes big, who shows up and puts a couple of pucks into play. It's not an option. It has to happen. And, it's one of those things. We talked about this very briefly yesterday, Zoe. In breaking this game down, I almost kind of feel like a failure at my job because I like to be able to say I can watch games, I can get a good sense of a team and a series and come up with some ways, come up with some things that they could do differently and better to put themselves in a better position. I am watching Carolina, and the only thing I got is you better take twice as many shots as you did in the last game because you've got to get straight shots to go in. If the puck is not sliding your way on rebounds, then you have got, it's not an option, you've got to create more one-time opportunities, and you've got to get more one-shots off that find the back of the net without touching anybody or anything, or you're in trouble. Outside of that, short of, sewing some four-leaf clovers into the jerseys, short of hanging some horseshoes inside of the box, I don't know what else Carolina can do to climb back into the series down 2-0.
You know, some teams are teams of desperation, and when they get their backs against the wall, that's when they find that extra thing, the thing that they weren't missing, the motivation that they need to get by their opponent, and maybe this is that team.
Might be. And look, it takes one breakout game, right? The series is 2-0, right? We know that. And statistically speaking, you go down 2-0, you lose the series. But here's the thing. Somebody said earlier, Rob, is it possible for Carolina to go win 2 games on away ice? Well, there's 2 things working right now that say yes. Number one, over in the NBA, the Clippers-Mavericks series are going to game 6. All 5 games have been won by the road team. Dallas went into LA in games 1 and 2 and took them both. LA came back to Dallas and won games 3 and 4, took them both. Dallas went back to LA for game 5 and won on the road. So yes, the other aspect of this is it possible for a hockey team to win 2 games back-to-back on away ice? Lonzo, the Lightning literally did that. That's literally the situation in this exact series. A team went on the road and won back-to-back on home ice. Not only is it possible, it's not improbable. It's a real-life good opportunity. But you better stop relying on rebounds, and you better start burying. Nedeljkovic can only do so much. Quick break. When we come back, Lonzo guides us through Fight Club. Your home for all things combat sports in the Upstate. That's next on The Rob Brown Show. This is ESPN Upstate.
I just don't think he's good enough to beat me.
My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart, I want to eat his children.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double champ does what the he wants.
Welcome into the Fight Club, where we sometimes feel like we've been beaten by Mike Tyson in the head for 12 straight rounds, but we still go at it and do what we do. And speaking of boxing, or is it boxing? I can't wait to get Rob's take on this. This Sunday, I'm sure Rob has already put the money out for this wonderful exhibition between Floyd Mayweather and Logan Paul. This wonderful exhibition is going to be 8 3-minute rounds. And they're going to use 10-ounce gloves, but it's not sanctioned by the Florida State Boxing Commission. But if there's no knockouts at the end, the Florida State Boxing Commission, a spokesperson from them says that the promotion will conduct some kind of vote for the winner. So isn't that nice? Doesn't that say boxing? And okay, at the end of the fight, if you want to call it that, if we can't figure out who the winner is, we're going to vote on it. Is that democracy at its greatest, or what? So you've already put down the money for this, right, Rob?
I'm just gonna let my commentary keep playing in the background.
The scatological things right there can get us in trouble. So I'm sure that's Here's the thing. The big question is, if the miracle should happen and Logan Paul does something that a lot of people, including myself, wanted to see, not by him, but by an actual boxer. If Logan Paul were to knock out Floyd Mayweather, is that the end of boxing? Is that the end of boxing as we know it? Or is it just an old man getting in there with a younger guy who's probably going to be heavier than him, supposedly thinking he's going to school that guy just to get a payday? Is it an old man who is one of the richest people that we've ever seen, who always seems to need more money? Why do you need that much money for? What is he spending that money for? Can I be Floyd Mayweather for one day? I'm not going to spend as much money as he seems to spend and then ends up having to come back. Or is Floyd Mayweather so greedy, so needy for the spotlight that he's willing to do anything, including fighting a loser YouTube star? Lots of questions there.
So, a couple of things. One, I don't like either one of these dudes. If there's a way they can both lose, that would be fantastic. All right. Second,
you could get a double knockout, like a double clothesline. That would be kind of awesome.
That's the only ending I'm pulling for, is that both of these guys throw a haymaker and both of them knock each other's brains out of their skulls at the same time. That's what I'd like to see. First off, Zoe, you don't get as much money as Floyd Mayweather has without the only thing that matters to you being getting money. All right? That's it. You don't get and keep that much money unless that is your number one priority. Here's what the only positive I can come up with in my head, Zoe, that might keep me interesting, is that Floyd Mayweather has decided that if he murders Jake Paul in front of our very eyes, that maybe, just maybe, he will show that he doesn't deserve to be there and that real boxers are better at, boxing.
So Floyd Mayweather is out to save boxing.
He wants to be boxing Jesus. All right? That's what he wants. He wants to save boxing. That's the only thing. But you and I both know that's the case, or that's not the case. This fight's happening because these two dudes want lots of money. There's a reason it's a 3-round fight, Lonzo.
No. It's not a 3-round fight.
I thought you just said it was a 3-round fight.
It's 8 3-minute rounds.
8 3-minute.
Yeah. So it's 8 rounds. I should have enunciated better.
That goes to show, how much attention I'm paying to Floyd Mayweather versus Jake Paul,
or me. No. One of the other.
I don't not pay attention to Lonzo, but when I hear Mayweather versus Paul, my brain just goes,
And if you're watching on the stream, Rob has no idea what I'm going to be talking about when we do these. So the look on his face as soon as I started talking about it is he did actually check out.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
Yeah. Listen, I don't check out except for when I do. And this is one of the very few things that I do. That's a checkout. I don't care. I don't care.
All right, from an actual boxing standpoint, and you being an expert, because you got to work for a boxer for a while.
Pounder of all time.
That's right. What's the difference between 12-ounce gloves and 10-ounce gloves? The fact that they both ask to go with 10 ounce instead of 12 ounce. What's the significant? Can you punch harder with 10 ounce? I guess so it weighs less, so you can swing faster. I mean, what's the difference between 2 ounces?
You ruined my punchlines, Zoe.
You
were going to say, what's the difference between 10 ounce and 12 ounce gloves? And my answer was going to be 2 ounces. And you took that away from me. So 10 ounce gloves are usually not 10 out. They have less padding is all it comes down to. 10 ounce gloves have less padding. They are typically used for training. They're typically used for hitting heavy bags. They're usually for when your sparring partner is wearing one of the big padded vests. They're lighter. They let you move your arms faster. And they with less padding, they let your hands get conditioned to the impact that a contact punch has. 12-ounce gloves used for more competition. They do have more padding. It's meant to decrease the amount of trauma to the body when a shot is thrown, delivered, and has good contact. Most fighters prefer to fight in 10-ounce gloves because you can do more damage with them. But when 12 ounces are traditionally mandated by fight commissions across the U.S. because they're safer.
All right, so text line 71307. Who would you rather see knocked out? If you have to pick one, and this goes for you too, Rob. If you have to absolutely pick one and not both, Logan Paul or Floyd Mayweather, which one would you rather see knocked out?
Who would you like to see? This goes for you too, Rob. Well, I'm glad you included me
because you said you wanted them both knocked out. I wanted you to know that you have to make a choice, one or the other.
I would rather me be knocked out so that I don't have to watch, hear, or see anything about this fight. But if you're making me pick between the two fighters, I don't like Floyd Mayweather, but I'd rather him win. I'd rather Paul get knocked out. I'd rather this charade stop. I'd rather it end. Look, if he beats Floyd Mayweather, a 44-year-old former champ, then again, maybe there's a little bit of respect and maybe there's a little bit of a future there. But until the dude goes through the channels to become a prize fighter, this is a charade. It's an act. It's an insult to boxing, and I'm over it.
All right, so I may surprise you here.
And if he gets knocked out by a 44-year-old former boxer, that pretty much means that he's
done.
Ready for the big time. Right?
He's done. Because I know my daughter and people of her age are interested in boxing now because of the Paul brothers, and I don't like Mayweather. I want to see Paul knock Mayweather out because I've always wanted to see Mayweather lose. So then he'll just shut up and go away because he'll have a loss on his record. Even though it won't technically count, we all know that he got knocked out by a YouTube star and he's done and he'll go away and that'll be that. But in order for boxing to survive, and I hate to say it, the Paul brothers have to be successful. At least to get a younger generation interested in boxing again, which is what they've done. Whether you like them or hate them, they've managed to get a generation. When my daughter comes up to me and asks, "Hey, what about the fight?" and I mention another fight, and she's like, "No, the Paul fight." That tells me a younger generation is more interested in boxing now because of that. So I want to see Logan Paul win just because of that and because I don't like Mayweather. All right, let's move on from this and go to NXT. I'm guessing maybe you got your chance to watch this, the NXT, Rob?
Not actually.
You still haven't watched it? Okay, so I'm going to spoil anyway, just because it's on my notes and, so we need to talk about it. Unless you don't want me to, because I have something else.
It's on me. We're out of the spoiler alert range.
All right, so
we got Andrew Lord coming up in the next segment too, so just a heads up.
Okay, well, so then you know what we'll do? You know what we'll do? We'll just skip NXT.
No, bring it out. We got a minute.
Okay, so this by far one of the best NXTs I've seen since I've been watching NXT. It's not just about the storylines outside. The wrestling was great, but the camera angles. They did something with the camera angles, and I want you to watch this when you get around to watching it. Following, you know, when people interrupt matches and things, suddenly they come into the screen, and it's like the cameraman was following them at the it's hard to explain, but it was very, very good, and it made everything seem organic. So you went from one run in to the end of a match to another run in to the end of the match. Regal is everywhere. He's frustrated. He's the best part of Regal is when he's angry and he's mad and he looks like he has no idea what to do. This entire episode, Regal is everywhere, because it is chaos. A lot of it has to do with Adam Cole. The triple threat match between Kyle O'Reilly, Pete Dunne, and Johnny Gargano was an excellent match, which you would expect from those three guys. But then Adam Cole comes out and just destroys them all and gets taken out. And then Adam Cole shows back up later, and he calls out Karrion Kross, and Karrion Kross comes out there and calls him, I can't remember the direct quote, but it's something to do with gas station trash, I believe is what he called him, which is hilarious. And Adam Cole called him a musclehead, which, you know, not nearly as creative as gas station trash. So that was really good. We get more on who's the protege between LA Knight and our boy Cameron Grimes. And DiBiase's out there to watch Mark Ryan wrestle Jake Atlas. Jake Atlas actually wins because of interference from Cameron Grimes. And then LA Knight, also known as Mark Ryan, gets really upset because of the fact that he believes he's no longer the protege. I still think Cameron Grimes protege the entire time. It's this. I love this. All right. And finally, the final match was Legado del Fantasma versus MSK. Excellent match. But the best thing is what's his name? Who's the guy who used to be the cruiserweight? I'm trying to rush through this. Who's also with Del Fantasma, the guy who's over everything. He is standing there. He's just interfered in the match. Yeah, Escobar. Bronson Reed comes full speed into him, into the glass, belly into head, into glass. You've got to see it. It's not as good as the Keith Lee thing, but it still is pretty good. All right, the last question before we go to break, since we have a guest. We talked about WWE being rumored to be bought, and Rob has brought up that NBC he thinks is a prime candidate. Now I'm seeing Disney is a possibility to buy WWE. Who would you rather have buy WWE, Disney or NBC?
NBC, because we can look. I understand that we've gotten away from the mature themes, but I think there's a way to balance the kid aspect of wrestling and the mature themes that make it interesting for grown-ups. Disney is going to make it a show for kids. I'm 95% sure it's NBC at this point. 95% sure. Let's take a break. When we come back, Coach Andrew Lord of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits joins us right here on the Rob Brown Show and ESPN Upstate.
The Rob Brown Show. Listen on your Amazon or Google Smart
TV. Calling us.
Just say play ESPN Upstate from the Ingles Market Studio. This is
someone just tried to call twice, and there was no way I could get to it.
FM Greenville, 97.1 FM Spartanburg, ESPN Upstate.
There he is.
An Odyssey station.
This fall, Furman is bringing back everything fans love about football Saturdays at Paladin Stadium, plus brand new fan experiences. That's why you need to purchase or renew your season tickets now. Plus, anyone who purchases or renews season tickets prior to 5 p.m. on Monday, June 7th, will have an opportunity for early bird discounts and fantastic prizes. For information, call the Furman ticket office at 864-294-3099 or get them online at FurmanPaladins.com.
Hey, it's Bill Donovan from Breakaway Honda. Right now at Breakaway, we have over 500 new and pre-owned Hondas ready for you today. Plus at Breakaway, every new SUV in stock is available with 0% financing. Breakaway has the largest selection of new cars in the
All right, I hope it's him. He didn't identify himself, and the number doesn't look like, I mean, it's not his name, but, you know.
If it's not, we're about to have a very interesting
I
interview.
said, "Is this coach?" He's like, "Yeah. Can you hear me? I got some background noise going on." So I'm pretty sure it's him. If not, it would be kind of funny. Not, but maybe a little bit. By the way, I disagree with you. I think Disney would be better because of ESPN and being able to tie it in with ESPN and do it that way, which would legitimize it a little bit more.
I mean, I get the premise of that, but Disney is still going to want a product they can put on Disney Plus and let kids watch it. How much, and this is one of those places where we're just, we'll separate based on what we're entertained by. Like, I think I would have, like Marvel Falcon and Winter Soldier. How much better is that show if they could be more adult oriented, violent, etc.? For me, it would have made a show even.
I was going to say, you realize you're talking to the wrong person.
That's why I said, but what I said right before.
Because
I turned it off.
I just think it's funny that people don't realize that you're actually doing the show and they still keep texting you.
They don't care. The people who text me know when my show is.
So they're trolling.
Yes, they don't care.
The ESPN. Text keyword ESPN and your message to 71307. Get in the game on the Rob Brown Show. Only on ESPN Upstate.
Rob Brown Show back on your radio. This is ESPN Upstate. Rob Lonzo. And now on the phone, it's been a handful of weeks. He's been busy, man. He's been busy. 72-game season wrapping up on Friday. Head coach of your Greenville Swamp Rabbits, Coach Andrew Lord, back on the Rob Brown Show. Lordo, what's happening, man? Been a while.
Great to be back on, pal. Appreciate you guys having me.
Absolutely happy to have you back on. And man, let's start with the best news. Playoff spot wrapped up. You guys clinched last weekend. Are in the playoff. That's fantastic news. Ready to get that started. What's the attitude of this team heading into the playoffs, Coach?
I'm very confident right now. I like where our group's at. I think we've had a great last 20, 25 games. We went on a real run there to separate ourselves from that big pack there for the kind of third and fourth spots. The top four in our conference, and got to the second. We would have liked to finish first. Narrowly missed out on that last night, but I think it's quite an accomplishment what we've done here this season, particularly the last couple months. I think the team's really gelled and come together. Very tight-knit group, really play for each other, willing to sacrifice for the betterment of the team. And I think when you do that and you have a great attitude and, you really want to put the team in the city first, good things are going to happen. And that's what's happening right now. So, playoffs is a whole other animal. It's going to be 15, 20% harder. But again, confident. I think we're ready to go.
Coach Andrew Lord of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits here on the Rob Brown Show and ESPN Upstate. So the number 2 seed in the East, the Everblades end up getting the 1 seed. You guys get one more crack at them on Friday down at Hertz Arena. Puck drop scheduled for 7:30 in the 72nd game of the year. The attitude, what's your approach for this game? I mean, obviously you're already clinched, you're locked in. The result really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, but I've got to wonder, is there momentum to be built? If you guys can take a victory away from the Everblades in game number 72, send yourselves into the playoffs with a win, send the number 1 seed into the playoffs with an L on the record in their final game. Is there a part of you as a coach that wants to attack this game as if the season rode on it, as opposed to maybe taking it a little easy since everything's locked up?
It's interesting. Normally in a 72-game season, you might think there'd be a few more kind of dead rubbers that, don't mean anything. Fortunately, from a coaching perspective in particular, it's only this one game. I really do believe we're going to go about it the right way. I think any true competitor wants to go and compete no matter what's on the line. And I know we have that to a man in our group. So, I think it's going to be intense. It was a very intense game last night. 2 physical teams, 2 teams with a lot of pride. Obviously, they've done some great things here the last 5 or 6 years. Very well-known franchise, and we're chipping away at that. We want to kind of knock them off here and become that team in our conference and around the league. So it's going to be another up-tempo game. We're going to go and try to win, and I think that is actually a really good thing to be playing such a good, physical team right before playoffs in a couple days. Keep our minds right, keep us ready for it. There's no time to kind of turn it on here come Tuesday or Monday, whatever that game 1 is. We got to be ready to go right for puck drop. So we're doing that Friday. Tomorrow we'll be ready for next week.
A 2-1 overtime loss last night, a chance to avenge that coming up on Friday for the Swamp Rabbits. Just a handful of minutes ago, got the press release that Samuel Jardine has been named to the All-ECHL first team for the 2021 season. Fantastic season for him. You guys have really had a number of players throughout the year that have stood out. Bednard won multiple Goaltender of the Week awards for you guys all week long. Also got the call up for a few weeks there. Talk to me about the standout players that you think are going to be the Rocks going into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, it's just good coaching, right, Rob? Yeah. just kidding. But I mean, we have a great group, and I really truly believe the strength of our group is, in the team camaraderie, how close the group is off the ice, on the ice, how much or how hard they're willing to play for each other. But within that, we definitely have some special individuals. Finkelstein, for sure, great defenseman. Battled through some injuries. Really proud of how he's come out on the other side of that, and giving us some great minutes and driving our offense. Jardine, awesome leader. On a personal level, trying to really see him grow into the player he is right now and have the year he's had. Had him last year overseas with me in Cardiff, and he's just improved so much. His mental side of his game, his awareness out there. He's a great leader. He can play, all styles of game, and I'm looking forward to seeing him in the playoffs. I think it'll be great for us. And obviously, Bednard there, been rock solid for us all year. He's been Mr. Consistent. So some really nice pieces in there. But ultimately, I think all these guys would trade all that in for a Kelly Cup.
We are talking with head coach of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits, Andrew Lord, here on the Rob Brown Show and ESPN Upstate. So how do you approach switching gears? You mentioned, you're talking 15% tougher. The pressure is on when you're in the playoffs. Everybody wants to make advances. As a coach, how are you communicating with these guys to help them make that mental switch from regular season hockey into playoff hockey? I mean, we're watching the NHL playoffs right now, and we got guys going to hospitals because of the amount of physical play they're showing. I know that attitude and mentality is there for the guys, but as a coach, how do you kind of prep them to change gears like that after a great regular season?
Yeah, I think I think that's the thing. I think it's a all-season process here. You chip away at it from day one of training camp. The ultimate goal every year is obviously to win the trophy. Surely you got to make playoffs. We've done that, but along the way there, especially the last 3-4 months, we've been ramping up, not just the talks, but, the video, our habits, things that are going to translate, very well into playoffs. I believe we've been doing now for a long time. We've tackled, I'd say, 95% of things that we need to tackle. And then that final 5% will be dependent on, who we play, who, we have healthy in our lineup and what our, lineup is comprised of. And when we kind of put all that together, it'll come out as the final product there in game 1 next week. But yeah, I mean, most of the work is done, right? It's just like a test. You can't cram for it. You got to chip away at it well in advance.
Andrew Lord, head coach of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits, joining us here. So now we await to find out. You guys, the 2 seed, taking on the 3 seed in the opening round. A lot of us think it's probably going to be Indy, though they've still got 1 or 2 games left to determine who is the 3 seed before we head into the playoffs. When you are in a spot where you're obviously, you got 1 more regular season game, but you're starting to scout out your first round opponent, put a game plan together. Is there a difference for you as the coach in the way that you approach opening round games in the playoffs as opposed to the way you approach regular season games?
Again, there won't be much change. I think that would lead to overthinking. That would lead to added nerves. I guess the one big difference, this season, actually, because of the pandemic, we've often had 3-3s against the same team. So in a way, it's somewhat similar, but, playing best of 5 against the same team, you can really hone in on things they do and how we're going to counter those things. You can hone in on, individual players on the other team, what the teams, the real drivers for that other team. So all those things will be taking place as soon as we know our opponent. We're trying to get everything planned as much as we can here. We're just waiting on the final word on who it'll be. I think we'll know that in the next 48 hours. But no, again, it's not some drastic shift. It's just doing everything we do and then adding that little extra intensity or desire or whatever buzzword you want to use to just find a way to pull this thing off and move on to round 2.
Andrew Lord, head coach of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits, here on the Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate. Coach, we were able and very fortunate this year to be able to have fans at the Bon Secours Wellness Center. Made it out to as many games as I could, and when the crowd's into it at Greenville, it's one of the best hockey environments I've ever been around. Going into the playoffs, when you guys make the return, because it looks like game 1 will be on the road, and then the next 3 will be back in Greenville. How much difference does it make for your team to have a good crowd there that is into the game, that is responding, that is putting that emotion out there to match the intensity of what you guys are doing? And how much of a difference can a great crowd make in the playoffs?
Oh, it makes all the difference, really. I mean, any night you have it where it's buzzing like that, players feed off the fans, the fans feed off the players, and vice versa. And, it's just fun. It's what sports is all about. We feel very fortunate through the pandemic here. Obviously a lot of places in the U.S. And around the world, either haven't had hockey or they've had no fans. Same with a lot of sports. We've had some, and it's been incredible. Some of the nights, especially the Friday, Saturday night type games, have been just great. And I know this upcoming weekend will be fantastic. And we just really appreciate the community, and I know this team and these guys, they really care about the city of Greenville, and they're going to show that here in these upcoming games. Andrew Lord is the head coach of your Greenville Swamp Rabbits. One more game coming up on Friday, 7:30 p.m. against the Florida Everblades down at Hertz Arena, and then it's time for playoff hockey, one of the best postseasons in all of sports. Lordo, my man, it's great to get you back on, brother. I appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you back in the well, pal. Awesome. Great as always, man. We'll see you soon. Have a good day. You too. That's Andrew Lord, head coach of your Greenville Swamp Rabbits, here on the Rob Brown Show and ESPN Upstate. Abbreviated Twitter trending topics to wrap it up next. This is ESPN.
Is anyone there on location?
Yeah, I'm at my.
Hello. Yep. Hi, Rob.
Hi, Diesel.
So last night I felt like a spy behind enemy lines. I was at Greektown Grill last night, which thank you, Mark Ryan, for being a thunder thief yet again. After I told him I was going there for dinner, what does he do? He drives his ass straight over there and gets dinner there before I do.
Come on.
I swear to God. I walk in and he's standing there waiting on his food. I was like, you little turd. And I'm sure he can probably hear me now. I'm like, come on, man. I tell you where I'm going for dinner and you're stealing that too?
Thunder thief.
Thunder thief. But as we were there, I guess he had spoken to the managers about the bracket contest that we're doing.
ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now,
and it's like, man, it's somebody blew the horn, and all the Greeks came out. They're like, it's time to go. So there's a guy there who I just had to do some internet sleuthing. Apparently, he's an upcoming Greenville lawyer who was talking to the manager, who knew that the lieutenant governor for the state of South Carolina was in the house, and got that guy to do like a video endorsement for Twitter, like on the spot.
Have you ever wanted to learn a new language?
I didn't know any of this at the time.
Russian, but thought it would be
I found it all out later.
Consuming? Then try
but I'm like, that's pretty big to have the lieutenant governor.
And try it for
who's like 90 years old. That dude's super old.
Built around real life. It teaches you everyday practical conversations that you will actually use. In 15 minutes a day, you'll be on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks.
But they didn't know. They didn't know who I was.
Technique that makes language
so I was sitting there listening, overhearing all of this.
It starts by
they're all just like they're all like little schoolgirls chattering, like, oh my god, we're gonna win this thing. What is this? What ESPN Upstate? We have an ESPN Upstate. Okay. Yeah. What show is it? Who are we up against? Oh my god, we're gonna crush them. And they just start like chattering, and it's so fun to be like sitting there overhearing this whole thing.
Celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Now try Babbel for free. Just text Babbel to 64,000 and start learning a new language today. That's Babbel to 64,000. BABBEL to 64,000.
It's time for some straight talk. Sure, saving money feels good, but cutting your wireless bill in half, that feels really good. Like walk-off home run in the 9th inning kind of good. Okay, maybe not that good, but pretty darn good. With Straight Talk, you can get 25 gigs of high-speed data for $45 a month, up to 50% less than the other guys. Plus, no contract. All on America's best networks. Why pay a whole lot when you could pay half? Straight Talk Wireless. No contract, no compromise.
Bria's Fashion
So
Boutique
have you
is
seen
the worst.
any of the
First they ask me if I
preview
need help
images
finding anything.
from Thor:
Just
Love and
because I'm
Thunder?
gorgeous doesn't mean I need help.
No matter
He
how
got
hard you work
jacked
for your
as
small
fudge.
business, online reviewers will find
He's
something to complain
enormous.
And they tell me they're having a
But that's
sale.
like the whole
Oh, so you're
idea is
sending
they
me
were like,
more.
yeah, he's
Cool.
done all these
And while
movies,
progressive
but
plans
now like
improve
in true comic book fashion, you have to one up yourself.
Insurance.
Also, they tried to give me the friends and
And
family
he's
discount.
apparently
I'm not
a
your
deep
friend.
dive for the comic book fans that I wouldn't have even known. There's a special belt that Thor wears that like amplifies his power. And these sleuths who watch these things have seen him wearing this belt, this special looking belt in some of the. So it's possible that like him being jacked as hell, even more jacked, coincides with this magical belt that he wears.
Supplies last. US only. And now the Rob Brown Show presents Twitter Trending Topic.
Here's what's happening on the internets. Let's see what Rob Brown knows about it. Twitter trending topic number 1 is Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A trending today. Of course, still have not made the decision to be open on Sunday, which, I always immediately want. Chick-fil-A is back under fire as, they have made a number of promises in the past that they would not be donating to anti-LGBTQ plus organizations, I guess is the word.
You mean pro? They wouldn't be donating to pro organizations?
To pro organizations. Anyway, it has come out that Chick-fil-A's profits are being used to push anti-trans state laws and kill equality acts across certain states. People are not upset, are very upset about it. not just for the action, but for the fact that they have said in the past that they would not be doing this anymore, yet have continued to do so, which means that we get another round of the Chick-fil-A people versus the anti-Chick-fil-A people, the best rivalry in sports, Diesel.
Yeah, so this is trending right now. It says Chick-fil-A's profits are being used to push anti-trans state laws and kill the Equality Act. It was one thing, I think, when they just took a stance, but they weren't donating any money to causes.
Right.
I think it's a little different when it's a lot different when they're donating causes to actively stamp out this Equality Act. I think that's a bad look for a company. But go ahead.
No, I was just saying, and after they exclusively said repeatedly they wouldn't do it.
Right. If they just chose to take a stance and say this is who we are as a company, love us or hate us, then fine. I think you got a fine cause there or a fine stance. But when you start putting money behind it, that is definitely a bigger issue. McLovin is trending.
Of course, McLovin, the character, I guess, from Superbad years ago.
Yes.
According to his fake Hawaii ID, it's his 40th birthday today. Happy birthday.
How about
McLovin.
that? How about that?
That's also Diesel's new honor nickname for me. Thanks for stopping by.
I was going to call you McMahon Boobs, but that's fine.
Hey, I work out.
12 ounces at a time is not a workout.
It's still a curl, Diesel. That's it for the show. Thanks to you guys for hanging out. My name is Rob Brown.
WYRD Greenville, WORD Spartanburg.
Thanks for watching on the stream, guys. See you all back here tomorrow to do it all over again.